Is that the only one on this part, Jason?
Oh, yeah, you got them all there?
Oh, left teaching. Left teaching. We're the only ones that write mine, they say.
Yeah, I hadn't signed it because I didn't see my name on it.
Well, me either. I'm the same like, I didn't see my news, I didn't sign either.
Mom always said if your name's not on it,
That's right, you never know what can happen.
I gotta run down, I don't have my executive session material with me.
we'll stall for you.
We'll wait.
Oh, wait. Go get it.
This is all,
That's all one.
okay?
I'll try to speak as loud as possible. Is that loud enough for you?
Are you
Is that
gonna,
loud enough for you?
are you gonna do this
Be a little louder.
pretty much?
Hoping not to.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right.
What days are you generally on? Tuesday afternoons or Monday afternoons?
Tuesdays I'm usually Fridays. Even if you work playing just one day, Fridays, Friday afternoon,
I'm sure you guys are serious or dispense or stuff. Not that. You live right there, it's just that I don't keep that. Just jumps into the
Yeah. Oui, monsieur Tracy.
First of all, you want to enforcing
Yeah, pickleball, ma c'était à ma fille. Oh, je pensais qu'elle était allée à ma fille. Parce qu'elle était supposée d'y être. Oh, ça c'est pas là. Je devrais avoir la force.
You said it was first on the agenda. Road projects.
He's always been
Yeah.
What's the site that people can try to get on now to see? Because you can almost show this up live now, right?
Yeah, this is, they're always live.
And so where do they go?
They can either go on Facebook, search for St. John Valley Live,
So let's assume that we're going to try to reach folks that are not on Facebook today.
St. John Valley.
Go on your phone, go on your Facebook on your phone right now.
Well, he's talking about people who don't have
Now, I just want to make that announcement to them.
Oh, okay, because did you answer my invite?
To consider other business. We got that.
Two.
Number 3.
Like, I'm ready to like the speech.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But for people who don't have social, it's St. John.
So Saint is ST? Okay, St. John.
Valley.
Yep.
They put that into any web browser on any computer or phone. They'll get to.
And so if we're talking about Facebook,
Facebook, they just look up St. John Valley Live.
That's what we got there.
yep.
And they'll find the group and they can join our
Sure. But are you sharing this with Channel 16?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They don't have the ability to go live on TV right now, but they have a website and they have a YouTube account and we stream to their website.
Are you bringing up the minutes?
I don't know where, but I will.
You know,
Because I haven't, like, with our grant funding, that there is an issue there.
Well, I'll start it. Carrie Clinton.
geez, I forgot to bring that up. Do you
I don't want
have
to
a
pick on
copy
anyone,
of
but
the last meeting's minutes?
They came up. The whole thing.
I picked up the package.
I picked up the package, but I was
They
wrong.
were not in there. I have a copy of the last meeting, minutes of the last meeting.
do we have it? She probably didn't do it.
That last meeting.
You don't have to be into the last meeting.
That's unusual. I've never seen it. I don't need to worry about it.
Same everything. Sorry I didn't have time to change. My hair okay?
Deal with anyway here. You know, it seems like forever that I've talked to you or seen you. I mean, we're going to have to do something because holy God, the world is moving and I can't find Dan.
Yeah, it's a little tough without your mail.
Trying to get that lady settled in. I don't want to leave her high and dry, so I have to get all the stuff done for her.
Jason, you didn't get that little microphone? So he was here.
But I didn't have a chance.
I'm not immune to things at me.
Or, you know, it's so something.
All right. If I could call this meeting to order. It's 5:30. Again, of course, first article is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jace, this mic is set up?
Yep.
Okay. So if there's anybody that will be speaking up on public participation, it would be nice if you could stand at the mic, please.
Oh, wait.
I guess, do we have anybody that's looking to speak this evening? Chris? Paul, are you, I don't know if you're doing it.
Well, I'm gonna speak after one of them guys. I'll let them go first.
No, go ahead, Paul. She's saying go ahead.
I said, go ahead? Okay. The only thing I have tonight, I've been looking around the Kmart parking lot. I think what they should do first is, once they get done with the other road that needs to be done, see if they can try at the end to do the Kmart parking lot, if they can. That's the only thing I brought up tonight.
Okay. Chris, go ahead.
So I have to stand there?
Well, best if you can.
I face you guys or face them? Face you? I've never done this some way.
You can just stand there.
Okay. I want to thank Gary for allowing us to come. We're a few people from Greenpoint Road and Birch Point, and we have a few issues. The first issue is our road is full of potholes and potholes and potholes. So when you ride, we do this all the way home. Oh, God. So that's the first issue. And I talked to Gary, and he says that it's on the agenda to be fixed. But because of COVID-19, it's not fixed. But I don't understand. You'd have to explain to me why COVID-19 is stopping when the money's there. The money's already there.
So what happened is, the project had already been approved at last year's annual town meeting for repairs, road repairs over in-town roads and back roads, Lake Shore Road, and many of our roads. $3 million project had been approved to go out. I gave the board the discretion to go out and secure the loan from the municipal bond bank to do the project. When COVID-19 hit, Madawaska, before that, Madawaska receives a sizable amount of money, equivalent to $1.5 million of tax relief from the state of Maine. Okay, so two things happened when COVID-19 hit. Maine Revenue Services told us, that the Office of the Treasurer told us that don't hang your hat on any revenue sharing projections for the next fiscal year because we don't know. And so that's a big for this board or for the previous board, as we were in our budget process, that became a big concern as to if we lose revenue from the state, that becomes taxes that we have to increase, okay? The other side of that, that was the big unknown, is that under the governor's emergency executive order, that people didn't have to register their cars, okay? And so, for a while, until the 30 days after the executive order expires. And so we didn't know back then what Madawaska's revenue situation was going to be for this year moving forward. We didn't know what revenue sharing was going to be. We didn't know what we could expect to receive for excise tax collections. Excise tax stays local. We use excise tax, all municipalities use excise tax to reduce the amount of money needed to raise in taxes, to reduce the town's, or the mill rate, if you will. So at the time where we knew that we had to have discussions as to whether or not we were going to advance that project that was approved the previous year, because the plan, as it was laid out, we made improvements to the roads last year, such as ditching, cross culverts like we did on Lakeshore Road. The ditching, we made improvements where we thought we needed to in advance of a paving project so that things could settle, and when we come in through and pave, the road would remain good. So we were committed to the project. We did work in advance of the project to prepare the road, and we still had more work to do in advance of the project to prepare the roads. For the paving project, when COVID happened and Maine Revenue Services said, whoa, and you know, the town, like many other towns, receive all kinds of revenue from the state for programs that they fund, such as the business equipment tax exemption program, where a business like Treasure Paper doesn't have to pay personal property tax on equipment if it qualifies. We get reimbursed partially by the state of Maine. Homestead exemption that everybody benefits from if you have an approved application on file. That is a reimbursement that we get from the state of Maine. The money that we lose, the town doesn't get from your homestead exemption, is partially funded by the state of Maine. So there was a lot of concern, there was a lot of unknowns, so how far this COVID thing is going to go and what the impact was going to be. So everybody, all municipalities in Maine, like Maine, buckled down because they didn't know what revenue was going to be. If the state didn't have the money to fund programs that they committed to funding, such as revenue sharing or homestead exemption or Betty, you name it, then they wouldn't have the money to refund us. So with that, we were working on the budget when this all happened. And all these notices were coming to us from the state of Maine. And I was making the board apprised, keeping them aware of the concern. As a town's treasurer, it's my job to keep the board apprised of the financial picture. And I was concerned that with all the unknowns of revenue, that it was hard. It was a concern of mine. It was also a concern of mine for the condition of the roads, because we worked very hard to advance that $3 million paving project. It was also a big concern that we would assume when we develop our budget, the expense side of our budget that is approved at town meeting, and the revenue side of our budget, which is all projection moving forward, that we make an assumption that the revenue is going to be there for us for that whole year coming up. But it doesn't mean that it is. And in these circumstances, we were very concerned. So the board didn't have, and neither I could support at the time moving the paving project forward and incurring new debt until we get a better picture for what revenue is going to look like in Madawaska for the foreseeable future. So that's why the paving project was sidelined. Okay? I think there's a will here to get the job done. I don't think that will has changed at all, and we still have a plan in place. What was missing, the part of the puzzle that was missing is the revenue side of things, so that we didn't end up incurring obligations that we would pay for, not knowing how to pay for them in the future. And of course, the impact is, for every $300,000 of lost revenue, $350,000, that's one mill rate that we have to increase taxes. So we were very happy. We worked very hard, the town managers in Maine, especially up here in the county, we worked very hard in the last legislative session to get the state of Maine to start funding revenue sharing back to 5% of sales tax. Over the last decade, that was whittled down to 2% of sales tax. And they are statutorily obligated, although they can do whatever they want, the legislature. Madawaska was receiving a lot less revenue sharing than 8-10 years ago, let's say, to a low of, from a high of $800,000 a year to a low of about $230,000, and we were working it back up. And before COVID hit in March, whatever the date was, okay, we were in line to receive $677,000 in revenue sharing for this fiscal year, which was going to help us reduce the need to collect taxes, okay? And after COVID hit, they sent out a notice and they said, don't put any stock into that number because we don't know if it's going to stand. So with that said, I think the board made a tough decision to table that until we get a better picture.
I understand that. The $1 million was to do not just our area, that's to do road projects all over town. But at least if they can't do the road this year at the Green Point, they ought to just do the maintenance so it doesn't get worse. Guys, we have to do slalom to get through, to go to Birch Point. You have to go slalom, you know, you live on that road. So they should at least repair the potholes. They put a storm sewer across the road. It's getting deeper every day. I mean, if we get a bad storm, we're going to lose some of the work they did.
What I don't understand is this. I know you heard, is it okay if I sit down? Do I have to get?
Well, I don't hear
As long as everybody else hears you.
You don't hear me?
You're good.
Nope.
I know you've heard this before. At Green Point or at the lake, we pay a lot of taxes. And you know what? We understand that. It's a privilege, it's a gift. I mean, it's almost paradise being on the lake. We pay a lot of taxes. But it seems that we have to wait and wait and wait and beg for any little thing we want. And the example I want to give you is that we have a wonderful tennis court and everything that our association with Mr. Tom Lacrosse, we made 6 big rows that we raised a lot of money. So anyway, we started playing pickleball, and I would contact Dean. We need lines because if you play pickleball, it's within a tennis court, and you need 4. So didn't have time to do the lines. So Tom Lacrosse makes us a template. We're on our knees making lines with chalk. But when it rained, we had to start all over again. We did that for 2 years. After that, Bob Peltzy, who had pity on us, came with a spray can of orange or yellow, and he made us some lines. Mais là, Dean n'était pas content. But anyway, we wanted to play, so we're tired of being on our knees. So 2 years after that, Don Deshane, his wife, and me were on our knees with paint, and our duct tape was our template. Well, this lasted for 2 years. Well, finally, after 6 years, we got lines this year. Well, you know what? It's good to be patient there, but Massam, the taxes, it's like we're never a priority up at the lake. We're never a priority. Everything else becomes a priority. So anyway, that's what I have to say. So, okay, my second issue is, do we have to solve this issue now, or is that going to be solved now, the first issue about doing the bumps?
Doing the,
repairing it for this year.
I mean, that's well noted already, I think.
Okay, so we don't get the answer tonight, though.
No, I mean, we'll obviously investigate what's going on there, and if there's potholes that need to be fixed, they're going to be fixed.
The second issue we have also, it's the speed. People, I don't know why they go through our road to go to the beach. They can go on the lake shore. They don't anyway. So we have a speed issue, and what we'd like to do is the speed is 30. If we could bring it to 25, and then we like at the basketball court, there's not even assigned children at play, and there's a lot of kids that are using the basketball courts and the tennis court. So there's no assigned children at play. If we would have that, that would, light a bulb or something. Hey, I have to slow down here. So that's another idea that we have, we'd like to put 3, because all of us, we all have grandkids, they come all the time. So we'd like to put 3 on there, so that would kind of motivate them to slow down.
So to get on that, and only because I was looking at this week for other roads, in Maine, the authority to regulate speed is vested in the Maine Department of Transportation. So the town, this board doesn't have the authority to set
okay.
speed limits that are not MDOT recommended. There is a lengthy process that we have to go through to ask MDOT to reduce or increase the speed limit.
So do I have to do that?
No, I mean, that's something that we can look into.
You can look into?
If the board so wishes to do that. And I know that, and I apologize for not being well-versed on speed limit law, but I know, just in what I looked at in the past couple of days, there's increments for speeds that are, it just can't be a certain speed. And so I'm not sure how much latitude the board has. It's really MDOT, even though they're town roads.
Yeah. Well, if I need to do something, let me know, and I'll wait upon. Well, thank you for your time.
You know, that's a point well taken, because the traffic there does go way too fast for the amount of little kids that are around it, and I'm sure that we'll do
I thought
what we can. You know,
there was something I was thinking. You know, they put the lights there, and shows the speed you're going. They have it right now. I wonder if we could have that for a while, one direction and then another direction, just to kind of.
We got an officer here tonight. You could probably pledge to do something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it up there as early as tomorrow if you like.
Oh my God.
That's good service.
You don't have to wait for it.
Well, see, if Jamie's one is doing it, you probably have it up there within an hour. We had it on the first road for a little while.
I didn't know what she was saying until you repeated it, so I wrote it down.
So we had it on the first road for a while.
Yep.
Would it be better if we back that mic a little bit?
It doesn't matter, because I don't hear very well in that.
Well, you heard me.
All right, folks.
I don't hear you either,
Listen.
Paul. Sorry.
We need to keep going. So anybody else need to?
Now can we leave? Is it polite to leave?
Yep. Thank you. Yep. Doug, go ahead. Or Dean, I mean.
I just want clarification on what you were explaining earlier on the 600,000. So everything's at a halt based on 600,000 revenue sharing from the state, what I heard? Or?
No, I think that there was so many uncertainties as to the revenue sharing projections and other revenue receipts that the town could expect to get. We didn't know.
But it was business as usual for the town. We all paid our taxes. Just that Green Point Road alone is probably $250,000. And we all paid our taxes. As far as financials on the business, on a town side, it was business as usual. Everyone was working, everyone got paid, teachers got paid, lunches are going out. I just, it's confusing why the state is holding progress in a municipality based on, from what I heard, 600 change. So you approved the budget to pave Lakeshore, and why didn't that continue? We all paid our taxes. And I know you're hearing this over and over again, I'm not the first one to say it, but I guess I don't understand, just because of COVID. If we wouldn't have had COVID, you're saying that would have been paid?
What I'm saying is...
No. Yes or no?
What I'm saying is we were on plan to...
You're right.
Yes.
Assuming no COVID, that was paid.
Yes.
Why couldn't it be paid? I mean, the money's gonna come. It was approved by the state, from what I heard, and from the board or the municipality.
So the board was concerned about revenue and budgets moving forward and have to raise taxes in this economy. And that's why we decided to hold off and wait for a better financial picture.
I know. I hear you. You said that earlier, and I guess taxes are gonna go up. Everything goes up. And I think I've been up there for 12, 13 years. I don't think that Lakeshore has been paved since I've been there. And it's coming to a point where it's going to be a hazard for not only walkers, cyclists, even vehicles. And it's all crumbling. I mean, I know Kevin can explain that even better than I can. And it is a hazard
for
but
bikers. For sure.
I'm just wondering. I guess if COVID wouldn't happen,
He's a small guy.
would it have been paved?
COVID would have happened. I mean, the board still had to authorize.
But you said it was approved last year.
It was approved at town meeting and authorized the board to secure lending to move the project forward. The board had discretion to basically say yes or no. And so they made their decision now.
Was it a yes or a no?
They decided to wait.
No. So there was a no, Dave.
Yes, the board said they were going to wait to see what revenues were.
No, prior to the COVID thing.
That was approved at town meeting.
Okay, and it was approved, it was appropriated, assuming.
Well, it was appropriated. The authorization was given to the board to acquire lending, borrowing
From,
from the municipal bond bank to finance the project.
nothing comes from the town?
Well, eventually, once the debt service is in place and we get our first payment, that's when their taxes start making the loan installments. Okay? So, one more thing. The plan that we had laid out, okay, as was explained at the town meeting last night, that we had an old paving project loan that we were going to retire the debt. Okay? And so for us, retiring that debt and then taking on this large project to do a lot of the town's roads, because it was going to allow us to reduce our paving budget in the Public Works Department. And that would have equaled to a net zero tax increase to the taxpayers for this large paving project. So we had a plan for how this was all going to cash flow, how the project was going to get done, but then this happened. Now, just to give you an idea, you got to remember that we did make some investments into Lakeshore Road.
Oh, no,
And we did, that should be an indication that we were moving forward.
But
the willingness was there.
I guess that's why this stopped besides, because of COVID.
Yes, and the other thing too is, Lakeshore Road used to be a state aid road.
Well, that wasn't, I was going there.
We never had to take care of that.
Mill Street.
But
One time?
they
Was it
swapped, the state said, here, you take 4 miles of Lakeshore, almost 4 miles, and we'll take over Mill Street.
Any chance of getting that swap back?
I wish.
Good luck.
And so that's something that this town never had to pay for,
Yeah.
those repairs.
Okay,
And
well-
I think, Kevin, I'm not sure, I don't remember the exact number, but it's $700,000 to $800,000 alone, just to do Lakeshore Road. So, that's something that, unfortunately, now it's on us, and before it wasn't.
Well, it was a bad decision.
Lori has something to say here.
Well, I just want to say, like, as a new board member coming on, right, when that decision had to be made, the ability to borrow was given to the board at town meeting. It was a $3 million loan. That would have been like $250,000 payment. And at the time that COVID hit, we not only didn't know if we were losing revenue sharing, which was the projection that we had gotten was close to $700,000, I think, but also excise tax. And the numbers we were looking at and understanding from what the state was sending and telling everyone is we could have been in the whole $800,000 to $1,000 possibly, and then for the board to go on and take a loan with a $250,000 payment when we might have already had to bring up the mill rate by 2 mil. It was just not a risk that we were prepared to take at the time. We were hoping, to work on the budget and have an idea of where we stand. I mean, when you talk about a mill, that's a whole department. So, it was something that we just had to wait and say, hey, we just really need to wait and see what the state does here because we could have been in big trouble.
Dan?
Mr. Collins, I sympathize with your frustration, and I totally understand your frustration. Being on this side of the fence, I do have to tell you that I'm of the belief that for far too long, this town, and I hold the board and the town manager directly responsible for building a budget and looking at anticipated funds coming in from revenue sharing. When this COVID thing hit, you'd have to be a fool to think that the state of Maine right now is going to be taking in the amount of sales tax that they have been taking in over the last decade or so. So right now to think or to bank on any revenue sharing from the state of Maine is not a smart thing to do at this point. So we have to build our budgets on what we currently have, what we know for certain is coming in, and not on anticipated funds. There is not a personal businessman that has ever succeeded that has succeeded on anticipated funds coming in. So I think we need to curb our thinking and our strategies to bail this community out of their financial distress.
So have all road projects stopped then?
Yes,
All? So,
not all. Our highway foreman's got a segment for us later in the meeting on a section of road that was in dire need of repair, 2.5 miles, Kevin, up on Labarge Settlement Road.
so how do we define dire need? Do we need somebody to get killed
Well,
on that
well,
road in a bike accident, or what would be
No,
a
well,
dire need?
as best I can explain it, is using the analogy of your own personal home. If you have a roof, if you have a drip in the kitchen, say my roof is leaking, you can ignore it for a little while, but then when you say, look, we need to address this, if you wait too long, you peel off your roofing only to find out that you've got an 8-foot circle of your boards that are totally rotted, and the project turns into 3 times financially the repair cost. And especially that segment of road that the town fixed recently, it was at that point. There comes a point where if you put it off by another year, you could actually double your cost of the repair. So it's pretty much a juggling act at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean to take your thunder here. I completely appreciate the situation, right? Budgets and, forecasting and trying to do forecasted money versus what bills are really going to come in. I guess, has anybody assessed, I like to bike on Lake Shore, and you can't even bike on Lake Shore anymore without being in the middle of the street, and that's kind of where I am. I just hope nobody wants to hit me, because you can't, there's no safe where to go. So who's assessing when it becomes a dire situation? I mean, is there a group that assesses?
The majority of it is all based on cost and funds that are available. I had the pleasure of talking with Mrs. Priss yesterday about this. She warned me that she was coming, but she promised me she was going to come with a smile.
I'm smiling. I totally appreciate it.
I promised her the exact same as a board member, and I have to tell you folks, we have no money.
But listen.
But as far as the priority, Morno was bad, the backside of Morno was bad, but at Lake Shore there's much more traffic. And we're talking seasonal traffic right now, we're dead in the middle of it. And with all the renters that are, the businesses that are renting cottages or camps, it's not only summer anymore, it's winter. So the high traffic is not only summer anymore, it's also winter. So how do you prioritize the Blavatsu to the Morno? It was just as bad. I've been there on bike and I've been there on car, as opposed to a strip from the golf course to Bay Cruz. That's murder. Have you been up there recently? Probably not.
No, I haven't.
Don't.
I haven't.
Right, you haven't. From Morno, from golf course to Bay Cruz, good luck. Walk it. Even walk it. Not bike or car or four-wheeler. You're going to fall.
Hey Gary, what I
Crazy.
don't understand,
But
I'm just a...
anyway, I'm not pointing. I don't want to point the finger at you. You're talking, but it's just in general. You know what I mean? How do you prioritize a section of road, $70,000 project, which is probably what the Latsu cost? I mean, you could have put a strip on Lake Shore, in my opinion.
You know what I don't understand? You get cash, we pay high taxes. Where's that money going? How come we can't get something back for what we've given? I don't understand. The money must be somewhere. Or are you using it to
I can answer that very quickly. I understand where you're coming from. As far as where's the money going,
Yeah.
There's a lot of services that we have here in Madawaska that kind of like go unseen. We have our police protection, we have our fire protection, that God forbid that you'd ever need any one of these people.
Listen, we have our sewers, we have our wells. We don't get any services from you guys except snow in the winter, but we're not there. That's what I don't understand. You get all this cash, and I feel that you're using it to improve the town, and here we are neglected.
Well, I believe that a lot of places, currently, a lot of places in town are being neglected because of lack of funds. And some people say, well, why is there such a serious lack of funds?
But there
Who
isn't
wants
a
to go
serious
there?
lack of funds for us over there. You get the cash. We pay big taxes. We have a 14 by 16, 40 by 16 camp. It's a shoebox. And we pay a lot of friggin' taxes to compare what we in town. It doesn't even make sense. Anyway, what did you say?
I said we all pay big taxes.
Well, not because of the lake.
Well,
All right,
You get all kinds of services.
anybody else?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to ask about was for Reed Street and Cannon Drive. Those two things, I had talked to Dave and, not Dave, but Dan and John, Jason, and the town manager about that.
Go ahead.
That was one thing I was just inquiring about, what we're gonna do with Reed Street and the rest of Cannon Drive that was never developed.
Gary?
So, Mark has a property abutting what is undeveloped Reed Street, if you will. Reed Ave ends, and then there's the gravel road that comes back around and loops and hits 26th Ave. Okay, and on the, where that road loops back around the 26th Ave, there's also an undeveloped Cannon Street, but it's like lawn and it's bushes and that it was never developed. And it's not part of a subdivision. And Mark is interested in that parcel of Cannon Street for some of the work that he's going to be doing on this property. So he approached Dan, he approached Jason and myself, he talked to Dave Warren when Dave was on the board. And the interest that he has is that he would like to acquire that property from the town. We've talked that, that does need to go to town meeting. The board does not have the authority granted to them by the townspeople currently to sell that property. And so I told Mark that it's on our plate. We're probably going to go into town meeting sometimes in September, and that's something that this board's going to have to hash out as to what that's going to look like, that transaction. I know that the gravel road, Mark has made some investments to do a survey to find out where the pins were. And the gravel road off the end of Reed is shifted onto his side quite a bit. And on the other side, which is the residential side, the homes, the back of the homes off of 26th Ave, is a tree line there at everybody's property. They have sheds and whatnot and belongings, not on town property, but there's a tree line there that's probably pretty sacred to everybody in that area. And so Mark has offered a suggestion to allow us to continue to use the road where it overlaps onto his property in exchange for the end of Cannon Street from 25th Ave over to what is considered.
And that would still have to go to a town meeting?
That would still have to go to town
So
meeting.
what, Mark, what is it that you're trying to question tonight?
That's what I was just inquiring where that was up to.
Okay.
I know I talked to Dan, he had some other different ideas about it, and so did Jason, so I figured I'd bring it up to the board, so if they wanted to discuss it more, they'd be able to.
Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead, Lori.
So I don't want to cut you off because this is important, but I was just sitting here, and I was hearing well. I want to talk just briefly about this public participation piece, okay? Because I was listening to them, I was thinking here, this is enough of a discussion during participation, and I actually said, okay, enough. Like, let's put, okay, like, we can't make a decision here tonight, so he's addressed us, can we just have this information so we all know what piece of land we're talking about, a map? Can we just put it on on an agenda? And like the road issue, could we revisit for the new board members a list of the roads that we're on for that loan? And I just feel like at some point, public participation, like share with us what you need, control a little bit so we all get a chance to give us the information so we can actually address the concern rather than let's just talk and then we can't do anything about it. And I guess I'm not,
So
I don't
you'd
want to
like
spend
to-
an hour in public participation.
Well, see,
and then
we're
we
already
never go
into
anywhere with
this for
this
like
stuff.
35 minutes right now, and
Yeah.
we have a lot of things to
Yeah,
cover
and
tonight.
I would like to see the list of roads that were on for that loan and what the payment was actually going to look like to refresh my memory and show all of them. And so I guess I'm asking
So you want some information, basically,
Yeah,
on whatever
and can we, Mark,
participation.
address this with us? I feel like this should not be this big conversation during public participation. He addressed it. Let's put him on the agenda. Let's give us the information, because I don't even know where you're talking about, and let's just move on. I think it's important enough for him to have his
Not a problem,
own.
Lori, that works.
I want you to have your own agenda item, and I want to see where the street is and what.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
We did discuss putting him on the agenda. I talked to Gary.
Yeah,
But we're too close to
Give him
this meeting
time.
to do it, so that's.
Your point is well taken, Laurie, but
You bet.
I would never want to make any person, nobody's any different. When you have something that's of interest that personally affects you, it's big.
You want your time.
I know, but this is big enough, let's put it on an agenda so we can actually try to do something, because we can't do anything during public participation. We can talk about this for 2 hours if we want to,
Yep.
you know?
All right, point well taken. Anybody else?
It's mainly for a request. I talked to, I'm not sure which one's the town manager, so I talked to you today. But I'm trying to get a tent revival put together on August 21st through the 30th. And he told me I'd need to come before the board to put that together
Put that request.
up here on 11th Ave.
So,
So the request went into the rec department because that's in their purview, and they weren't sure, what the authority was to be able to allow that. And so I did check in with legal, and it is permissible to allow.
Exactly where is this?
Over by the Boy Scout building, over on 11th and French. That little patch
Okay.
of grass
Yes.
right in between the soccer
Okay.
field and baseball
Down here.
field. All over there. And so, if we allow other activities to take place on our property, this is no different, and it is allowable. So I don't have any issue with it. I think that our only concern would be the duration of the event, which we can regulate. Time, manner, and place is what legal has told me. So we have no issue with the location. The duration, you were thinking 10 days might be a bit of a concern, if it's a concern to this board, and then leaving your tent up overnight. Yeah, I live like right across the street from right where the tent's gonna be. I live at 173 11th, like diagonally. But I would
who's
be
going
with
to be responsible for cleaning any debris there?
I would clean up any mess that's there. I have no issue. I do it at the fairgrounds.
I mean, there's nothing here that we can say no to, as far as I can tell, so, yes, that should be allowed.
Now, do I go into the town hall to get a permit? We don't have a permit process, but we should for all activities. So I think what you can do is just touch base with the rec department, Sam, the guy that you spoke with. Okay. And so that you can schedule that in. And tell him that I talked with you guys already. All right. I'll give him a call tomorrow. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you guys for your time.
Anybody else? Oh, hold on. Eve, go ahead.
Is there any plans to paint the signal lines in the back roads?
I couldn't hear.
Restriping?
Any what?
Center lines
Center lines.
in the back roads to direct the traffic. I went for a ride the other day and I took a curve and the guy, there's no center line, he turned into my lane. Usually it hasn't been done in 3 years. Just wondering, is it in the plans for this year?
We're putting it on hold until they decide to put hot dog, because what happens is we can't paint with the way it's rough, the lines will be all, so I figured that it's not even worth
Is there any painting done on Guy Road this year?
That's what we're gonna talk about tonight, I'm hoping.
Because I know we had 6 barrels of paint downstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just wondering, because it was a close call. It's a safety issue more than anything else.
Where was it?
Dial Road, the men's curve.
By names?
Yeah. I took the curve and this guy came in.
We're dangerous.
Okay, anybody else? Paul, go ahead.
Okay, just one thing I'm just gonna bring out, and I hope Lori can try to hear me. I'll take the mask down for now. Maybe later on, once it's the right time, also if we can try to get another department store later on. And that's the only another thing I'm just gonna bring out tonight for today.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I heard you, thank you.
You heard me, that's why I had to bring my mask down.
Thank you.
So, anybody else? So we're all set with, I'm sorry, Dan.
I've got just one for tonight that I'm wondering about. Have we confirmed anything on ownership of the property that became fiery subject last January with the snowmobile trail passage on the Dion property across from Central Building Supply? Back in January, they said it was an impossibility to find the pins, and I don't think we should be waiting for winter time to get back. I'm just wondering, has there been verification as to who owns the property, where are the boundaries, where are the pins? We need to find out where we stand with this.
We are looking into having Mike Sear go find the pins for us.
Okay?
So I don't know if he's been yet. And that's a discussion that we're going to be taking up in a soon,
Okay.
in the board meeting soon. So it's not off the radar.
Okay.
Yep, right.
I spoke with Mike after you had talked to me about it. That was about a month ago, I'd say. And he said he was supposed to draw up some kind of agreement and stop by and talk to you and to get that going. Because I told him that it would need to be done sooner than later.
Lori?
Is that the road by Kelsey and?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so just so you know, and there was, so I went to see them. They said that they were good for now. She did tell me today that you stopped by there. There was some discussion, like, we sent informational emails out that, you know, you're not getting. So what we had agreed to is, to be fair, it's going to be an agenda item, and we're going to address it, like, as the board with the information that we need. Because she mentioned she was going to come here tonight during public participation, and I said the same thing to her. I said, you know, we all know what the issue is, but if you come public participation and we don't have a map in front of us, and we don't have the information and paperwork that she had originally brought us, and you don't make it open to all the parties and advertise that that's being discussed, it's kind of not fair for us to make decisions. So we've been talking as well, and Dan did say he's gonna open his emails.
Yes.
All right. Anything else? Let's move on then to Article 3. To consider other business and adjustments to the agenda. Do we have anything there that we need?
Yeah, so when I set out the agenda, I forgot to put the approval of minutes, and they were sent, Natalie picked up on it after the agenda was set out, but, and you guys have the minutes, but we need to add that in here so we can approve those minutes. Minutes of June 8, June 18, June 25, and July 1.
So these are the minutes that you want us to approve, and the last one being July 1?
Yes.
All right. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of meeting of June 8, June 8, June 8, June 18, June 25, and July 1?
So technically, I don't think that we absolutely have to legally approve these minutes, and there's only Doug and I left, so we really can't. You can't, you know, the other three,
They weren't here.
right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I didn't see any issues with anything. If you didn't, I think, but we can't technically take a vote.
So you're right, Lori, there is no statutory requirement that minutes need to be approved, but it's been past practice. And I think that in situations like this, our auditors look at minutes, they look for approval of minutes, because that's what we've been doing. And so I think that in a situation like this, where we have a turnover in the board that can't approve prior minutes, that we would entertain some kind of statement that says that, to that effect, what you just mentioned. So if you want to do that, that would take care of that.
So I accept these minutes, Doug, as written.
And I do also.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
It'll have to be.
And the record will show that the other three members of the board were not on the board for these meetings, so they're not going to weigh in on it.
I have just one point of interest here that developed during the course of the day today, and it was a bill that came up on the U.S. Senate. Susan Collins was speaking on behalf of the coronavirus economic aid package. There was a number of senators there, but Susan Collins took the floor, and Gary had been in conversations with her office about how and what we were facing here, and so she brought up the town of Madawaska on the U.S. Senate floor. And Gary, I mean, if you could elaborate on some of the topics that you had brought up to her office and
Yeah, I mean, so discussions when COVID hit, we, as town managers, were faced with a lot of unknowns. And so we leaned on each other. We used the Zoom platform and MMA, services of MMA, the Municipal Association. We have one of our own on MMA, who is the legal policy analyst for MMA, and it's Kate Dufour, who grew up right across from Tim Hortons. And so MMA was very helpful to the towns and the town managers who wanted to participate in Zoom meetings to discuss the issues and how they were handling issues and all the executive orders and what did they mean, and MMA was telling us what it meant. And so anyway, long story short, we've all talked about our struggles and how the impact to our economies and the impact to our municipal operations, budget curtailments. We knew that we were facing an unknown revenue future. A lot of towns, including Madawaska, left vacant positions open to the next budget cycle, and that's yet to be determined. And we've asked our departments to hold the line a little bit until we could at least try to roll some unspent money into our fund balance to help us out for harder days ahead that may be there. And so, since March, we've been having discussions, and some staffers in Senator Collins' office were in on some of those conversations, and we've been talking to them on different matters as well. So they knew Madawaska's side of our concerns for Madawaska and all things COVID related. They followed up, staff, Trish House over in the office in Caribou followed up yesterday to talk about that, and she said, I think the Senator might be making a mention in her plea, because the Senator, about 75 days ago, had worked to co-sponsor the SMART Act, in the Senate, which would have put as part of the SMART Act for relief and PPE and all that stuff. There would have been, I believe, $500 billion allocated to states and local government to help defer the cost of lost revenue, the impacts that might have on services, staff, projects, and all that stuff, all the things we've been talking about. So they checked in with me this morning to say that, we had a conversation yesterday, and I had no idea that this was coming, and then this morning we got a call from the staffing office, and they said that Senator Collins was going to be speaking on behalf of this bill, which is different from the SMART Act, the bill that was put in there 75 days ago, and she's advocating hard for state and local government, and she used a handful of towns in the state of Maine, including Madawaska, to help make the case for federal aid for state and local government.
so, I mean, I have to give you kudos for getting to her office, getting to recognize us. I mean, I don't know that we have ever been recognized on the U.S. Senate floor, let alone the House floor. So I really commend you for taking the time, taking the effort. This was something that we were discussing just last week about trying to get involved a little bit more with our representatives, and here we are, lo and behold, we are front and center. And so I want to thank you for the efforts. I want to thank you for making those contacts, because I think those are invaluable, and I'm sure they'll pay off in years to come.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else there on Article 3?
I have something.
Yep.
Minutes. Well, as a former minute taker, I had to be really, really meticulous on the information provided. So I was looking at one motion was to approve a certain amount of money for roads. No roads are listed. So anybody future that goes to look at our minutes, they're very vague. There's nothing, enough information on there for people to do research, to refer to. A motion, a second is not enough. There has to be discussion, there's people that are talking. There has to be some history to follow. And oftentimes you have to do research. And if you have nothing but a motion and a second, where do you go? You can't necessarily rely on media, because not everybody has access to that. The best form is a written document and it's kept in a safe at the town office for all to see. But I just find they're way too vague. They have to be more in-depth.
Do we actually record our meetings?
They're all video recorded with WOWL.
But I mean, in-house? Anything, I mean, a recorder of any kind? I mean, other than...
She's recording right now.
She's recording, but I mean, is there a recorder of some kind? She's just recording manually?
She's recording so that she can transcribe, basically put on paper the motions. Yes, in the past, the town used to have more extensive minutes. State law doesn't mandate the whole conversation, it only mandates the motions. So, you know, before I got here, that's how minutes were being recorded. Yeah, we can probably elaborate more in the minutes, but we also have the video to fall back on too, if we wanted to, or if somebody needed to.
Are videos archived?
WWL, yeah.
So if they have a fire up there, we're in trouble.
You might be able to elaborate, Jason.
Yeah, they have a YouTube channel where a lot of their videos are archived for longer than that. So there are digital copies.
So if somebody was issuing a problem here today and we had to come back and visit this 5 years from now, would we be able to find it? Yeah?
As long as YouTube still existed, yeah.
How far back can we go?
As far as you need to.
As long as they've been recorded?
Yeah.
Lori?
To Menno's point, something that's coming up actually tonight, when we discussed the boost program, for example, I was very specific in my discussion, unfortunately not in the motion. I said, let's do $20,000 to cover 569 certificates, 200 extra, and $775 to go to the chamber for admin fee. And somehow that didn't get to them, because now I don't see it on their list on the next article that is asking for additional admin fees. So either the motions need to be more detailed, or Mano's right, like there needs to be a little more documentation or notes taken so that when we try to follow through on something, nothing gets left behind. You know, now this program, for example, has been oversold a little bit. I don't know how that information should have flowed.
I guess really, I mean, we can just be a little bit more diligent about making sure how it's recorded. I guess I don't know quite how to address this issue other than putting a tape recorder on her table and recording everything so that as she's putting the minutes together in the next day or two, that we don't miss anything. I don't know how to address this. I'm not quite sure what to say or how to move this forward.
I think we have a board member who's extremely qualified. I mean, we could just put them together and they can figure something out.
It took minutes for 27 years, if not more.
So would you?
Unreal.
Are you saying that you would be willing to?
Sure, but there just has to be more content to this. Some of the stuff can be avoided, having to come here to look through a tape when you can rummage through a minute and know the year. Unfortunately, I remember years that certain cases were addressed, but that's besides the point. And it's amazing how much of that department heads would come in to see, well, when was this addressed? And they'd have a copy of the minutes and they'd have something to follow.
You know, the only thing with this, Mano, is that I don't know if we can direct somebody in how or what to do, other than whether you'd be involved on a regular basis to have to look at this and address this every time we have a meeting.
It needs to be really important to document. Very important to document, unless you have some sort of formal way.
Our person here is extremely intelligent and very detailed if you just tell her what you need. I mean,
well, so I guess I'm not quite sure how.
This fell over the years, and she took over, and this is all they do. So if you just tell her.
Tell her to record everything that's said?
No. Important things like the roads, for instance. $250,000, let's say, was appropriated for certain roads. What roads were covered in that? It's just a motion. There's no roads discussed or anything. You need something to follow on and say, yeah, that was
Well,
approved.
then
and
I
this
guess
was-"
that's up to the chair to make sure that the questions are asked and the answers are correct so that she can record it. I mean, I have a hard time right now pinpointing how we're going to fix this other than trying to fix it right here.
Because history
mean-
does repeat itself. Things you think that are
And
going
you know,
on, they come back and hit
I
you
am the
about.
first to say, let's not repeat ourselves over
But it
something that we
does.
faced year after year after year. So I will listen carefully. I mean, I guess really it'll have to be more an issue for me to try to make sure that we explain the motion correctly and the answers are recorded correctly, or that there's more information about them other than just the motion and who was accepted.
So in your mind, Mano, is it as simple as just being more detailed?
More detailed. If you think of it and you're hearing, you're saying, oh, this person's saying something really important, and maybe 5 years down the road, they're gonna come back and revisit. Even the road where there's yuns and that, things come back. That's what I mean by coming back. Old roads or whatever comes back.
Yeah.
If you have something to refer to, it's easier than going to go through pinpoint a date that you held that meeting, which you don't know.
Well, maybe for the short term, let's maybe take a look at the minutes and see if you can help
I'm
along.
keeping minutes myself.
Okay.
so,
Anything else with Article 3? Article 4, to consider the town warrants. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the town warrant.
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor? Opposed? Article 4 carried unanimously. Article 5. Article 5, to consider the appointments of Board of Selectmen to the Northern Aroostook Regional Airport Authority, the Madawaska Public Library, Valley Recycling Facility, Finance Committee, and the Police Department Association. So we're looking for somebody in every one of these?
Yeah, these are annual appointments.
Yep.
And so since we just had an election, this would be the time to reappoint board members to various positions. We do have those positions open. Currently at the library, Don Chasse was on that chair, was on that board. You, Doug, were at VRF, Valley Recycling. Don Chasse was on the airport board. Lori was on the finance committee, and Doug was on the police association. So at this point, you guys would have to talk amongst yourselves to see what interests you, what would you like to serve on, and if you express interest in the library. And so, I've had it.
Laurie, any thoughts about,
I'd like to stay on the finance committee, but I'm willing to give it up if someone else wants it.
don't want to add anything else?
What?
Don't want to add any other departments?
Well, I'll wait and see.
Yep. Dan, anything there that?
No, and the reason being, I feel that I'm just here for a one-year term, and I would prefer to see somebody that'll be there with longevity, with a little bit of follow-through. Pretty difficult to accomplish anything inside of a short term.
Well, these are all basically a year appointments, but anyway, just consider maybe, just consider one of these. Jace?
I mean, I'd definitely be interested in the regional airport.
Oh, really? Oh, very good. Okay.
I have a lot of interest.
Because I was thinking that if nobody went in that direction, that I probably would make my way there and give up the VRF, but if you're going to do that, then that's great.
If you and Laura are happy staying on the positions you currently hold,
Yep.
we could.
Then I think that covers them all? Okay.
The police department association.
Police department, yeah, I'm
That was part of that.
on board with the police department, VRF. Yep, yep,
So we need a motion and a vote?
yep. Yep, so I do need a motion.
I'll motion.
I need a second.
Seconded.
All in favor? Article 5 is carried. Article 6.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep.
I think that we could probably, I know that we've already gone past Article 3 where we would adjust the agenda, but I think that we could probably take this executive session at the end of this meeting, so that people here could,
Go ahead and do,
not have to wait around for us to come out of
Okay.
executive session.
all right,
Take care of the
so
rest of the business.
let's move that over. Article 7, to consider a sewer abatement request for account number 131.
So this account here, the client came in to the town office in February to have the account changed to only the maintenance fee, because the business had closed, but that change never happened by the time the billing came through, so they're asking for that abatement of 75, the bill should be $75, not $248.83. I would support that.
Okay? So, any other question, do we have a motion?
I make a motion. So
So moved, any second?
I'll second.
Yep. Any questions, anything else we need to discuss? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Article 8, to consider the reimbursement of boost program expenses by the UDAG program to the St. John Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, so I'll lead off with kind of recap the boost program and how it came to be. The town was interested in doing something with this UDAG program, to assist businesses, to try to get cash into their hands during a time when they were closed. Cash wouldn't fall into their hands. And the whole concept was born in discussions with the chamber that through the boost program and the gift certificates, people could, like a gift card, buy ahead, and that money would fall into the chamber would be handling the program. We didn't want the town handling that kind of fund activity, and we felt that the chamber would be a good place for that kind of program in collaboration with the town. And so the board agreed back then to support that. It was a success, a resounding success. We got a lot of requests, and I'm speaking it's very summarized to what I'm talking to you about. But in our initial boost program, we had talked about, oh my God, if my memory serves me right, we were going to do $10,000. And Keith, correct me if I'm wrong here. And then we were going to pay admin to the Chamber of Commerce for their expenses, for their time and their supplies, postage and all that stuff, credit card fees for transactions. And so the program, we sold out like that. And so there was a discussion with the board to do it again. So the program ended up being a $30,000 program, and we leveraged another $30,000 of local money to go into the hands of businesses that were affected by COVID. So that being said, the Chamber of Commerce has provided us the breakdown of the boost program, summary, if you will. You have copies of that. And their request for reimbursement, our first reimbursement for their services was there, and then we doubled the program on that. So I think that we owe them
Triple the program.
We tripled the program, and then we owe them for their time and effort for a program that many businesses were thankful for and appreciative. We got some cards, some thank you cards on that. It was a learning experience, but it was a wonderful experience to see people in the community rally around their businesses with the municipality and the chamber to put money in the hands of those businesses when they really, really needed it. And so kudos to the chamber for helping out for something that they had never done before, neither had we. We kind of, Lori and I and the chamber and Keith, we sat there, we brainstormed the program, we brainstormed what we thought the pitfalls were going to be, what the issues would come up. We tried to address everything that we thought might become an issue. And so, all in all, it was a success for the town for businesses in Madawaska.
I have two questions which come from the street. On the first go-around, the first $10,000, how quickly did these sell off?
Within the first couple of hours. But then we had all the emails and all the phone calls that came from it. And people dropping stuff in the mailbox. So once we had reached the $10,000, just in that day alone, we had another $20,000 of requests.
Okay, for the protection of the town and for the protection of the Chamber of Commerce, can this be verified?
Everything can be verified. I
good.
have all the records.
Okay, thank you.
So the program, you started with 10 and then you jumped to 20, so actually 30,000 went through the
30,000.
program.
Yeah. So it was triple the, well.
Yep, no, it's not hard to figure that out. Yep. And the others here are just donations that some of the local businesses and individuals put in.
I would like to add something.
Yep.
I just need to correct what Lori said. We did not oversell the program. We had $30,000 worth of money, and that's what we sold. We did not oversell.
It was oversold, not by you, it was oversold, the intent of what the board was giving, based on what the numbers that I shared with them during the meeting when we voted for the extra 20, you were supposed to get some additional admin money. That was not relayed to you.
No, never happened.
So, I'm not saying you did, it didn't get relayed to you. So when I saw this, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, what happened to the money that they were supposed to get for admin fee? Where did that go? And so yes, it was oversold, but I'm not saying that you did anything wrong.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was correct.
There was lack of communication somewhere.
Right. And can I add one more point? I've got the exact figure of what I can actually prove, that I have all the receipts for and everything. The reason I put or $3,000 is because there are other things that I don't have receipts for. We did have other expenses. I did put in more hours than I've actually put down. So that's why the two figures are there.
And the reason for my question is for your protection and your protection.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Just got a quick question about the uncharged donation of $100. Is that somebody who backed out at the last minute?
No, it wasn't a back out. It was that I didn't initially charge it, and then when it was all done, I found it. It was my error completely. So I didn't feel that it was proper to charge that person a month later. That's why I wasn't charged.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that the email you sent me? I understood you were going to charge it, so charge it.
No, I didn't charge it because I waited too late. By the time I was putting the figures together by the time I found that I hadn't charged your card.
Oh, no, I want you to charge it.
No, but that's what happened. And I didn't want to cause any problems.
You know what, I think, in due respect here, again, the town is acting and trying to help its community, trying to help its business. And this program, again, got emulated a few times over that we heard within the county. Now, I don't know how much further it might have gone from there. But again, kudos to the folks that actually stepped forward, Gary and Keith and Sharon, and of course with the board approving their actions. This was a great program for everybody.
And I will piggyback on what you said about that other, and Sharon knows with her counterparts in the chamber world that other chambers have looked at this model and they were impressed, and they sent kudos along to us and to them for what we came up with here. It's a pretty novel idea, and it came together very, very quickly. And as any program or any project, you always learn your way through and you adjust. If we were to do something again, we know that there are certain things that we would certainly do differently. But we saw the urgency, in the need that was there to try to help out. And so we responded quickly and we tried the very best we could to put out a good program. And I feel that we did. And it's all verifiable.
I know.
Every day of the week.
I showed up halfway through the day to save the day.
Yes.
Because I messed up on my Excel formula. But let me tell you, out of all the complaints that I've heard about not being able to get a hold of them or not being able to order things, it was a well-oiled machine in there. There was no second to waste. There was no pen being dropped.
I was in there for an hour, and within that hour, there was never a time where that phone wasn't ringing. And that wasn't counting what was coming in the door. People were dropping off the envelopes in the box outside. I mean, it just, you could see that these people that were working there were not going to move. There was no way that they could ever get away from what was going on, because people were responding in a real fast manner. All right, any other discussion here?
Well, I have a question.
Yep.
And I'm gonna apologize up front there, but to be the Debbie Downer that I usually am, I have to keep. The 3,000 for the Canadian Festival has nothing to do with this, but since we are not having the festival, and there's money sitting there that you are gonna get paid to take care of the festival, could we not apply, should we not be applying some of that money to this? Because there's no festival.
I've already put in a lot of the hours, Lori. I've already put in a lot of the legwork. So I would have to get the records from April to see how many hours she's actually paid me for the Acadian Festival already.
Okay.
Because we started right when that was given.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I wish I could tell you, yes, let's do a fair trade, but I can't.
I would think too that a lot of your fundraisers are just not happening this year. The trade show is not going to show.
And I'm still doing follow-up from things that weren't happening, so there's always work going on anyway, so.
Okay, so I have the figure that you're looking for. Could I have that figure again? What was it, 3,000? Is that what you're saying? You said 26,687.36 or 3,000?
Or 3,000. And the 3,000 is for the actual things that I can't actually prove. I don't have receipts for, and it's hours that I didn't put down.
I don't know how to address that. I mean.
Well, she's asking for 3,000.
So
I mean, really, she'll settle for 26.
So basically what we're saying is we're going to do that without verification. Really, that's what roughly is.
You're saying roughly 300 something without verification.
So I guess.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you guys originally approved the $1,500 fee to be paid, was that just on a basis of regardless of what the receipts were, or was that, here's this and you have to prove that $1,500?
We estimated what the time and the materials, the supplies was going to cost, and we knew that they were going to incur credit card transaction fees, and so it was our best estimate at the time. It was $1,500 for 10.
And it was
10,000. We ended up doing 30.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at. So could we not again say, well, we tripled the program, so let's triple the $1,500 that we
triple it?
Well, triple it.
We'd
double it.
out to 3,000.
Bring it to the 3,000.
Oh, double. Okay. Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not worried about the verification, I'm just worried about where the money's coming from. I mean, I trust that she put the time in, where are we taking this 3,000 from?
Well, it's the
We're
UDAG
proposing
program.
to take it from UDAG?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a UDAG sponsored program.
I trust that the time has been put in, but I'm a little bit leery of approving, and I know it's only $300, but on something that we can't verify. Again, we're putting ourselves in jeopardy. We're opening ourselves up.
Can I say
Sure.
a word on that? This is postage I already had at the chamber office that I used for this program. This is all my copier, my ink, my printer, my paper, everything else that I used in the office.
If push came to
plus
shove, could you come up with
additional overtime that I haven't put down.
Could you come up with receipts for $300 worth? Charges for your copier, charges for your postage.
Dan, I mean, you're asking me to put something out of the
It's
air
just that
here.
we
It's
have a
stuff
public.
that I had at the office
Yeah, but
that
you
I
don't
use
share
that.
it. Share it. Bill it to us.
Yeah.
Bill it to us.
Okay,
Just for safety's sake, because there is a core group.
okay, it's just I don't like to not have,
The actual bill. Yeah. So make up a bill for the paper, make
Keyboard.
up a bill for the postage, make up a bill for whatever materials that you used out of the chamber, because you're taking it from the chamber.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, I can
In
do
an
that.
instant of time, keyboard warriors can come after you
Where
for
did this go?
$300
Yep.
and can, and with the most
Okay.
honest of intentions, can paint you out to be a thief and a robber.
Okay, thank you. I will do that.
Okay.
See why.
Any other discussion?
Cover your assets.
I know.
Any other discussion? So can I have a motion to accept her expense of $3,000 to
I
cover?
make a motion to reimburse them $3,000.
And do we have a second?
Second that.
Jason, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, and I'll have that to you tomorrow.
Article 9, to consider a notice of surplus determination from the United States General Service Administration for the former Twin Rivers Paper Warehouse on Mill Street. Go ahead.
So, for those who don't have the information, the old warehouse building on the corner of Mill Street is down, that's federal property, it's been federal property since 2008. And so, as the project is moving forward, the new bridge is coming, and the LPOE, Land Port of Entry, GSA is now moved into the process of selling their federal property. So, in the United States, every federal building, be it a courthouse, a customs office, whatever, it belongs to the General Service Administration, and they have an agreement with the agencies to lease or whatever, I don't know what the terms are, for use of those buildings. So there is a process that's defined in the law, how the government has to dispose of property, like buildings, in this case. And it first has to be offered to other federal agencies that might be interested. And if there are no other federal agencies that are interested, then it goes to, they make an offer to state and local government. And if state and local government agencies are not interested in the building, then it goes out to probably what will be a sealed bid. So the building is it's a metal building, 50 wide by 140 long, 14 feet eve at the eve. It's got an overhead door 14 feet tall. It's a building type is metal C-channel, 12-inch structure, C-channels, walls and floors on 3-foot centers. Wall C-channel base plates are mounted to the floor or footing. In this case, it's mounted to the footing. This type of building does not require concrete piers, as we might see in regular or more typical metal buildings that have columns, if you will, and you have a big concrete pier. All is needed for this building, it's like a footing, if you will. It's got metal siding mounted horizontally on the walls and a metal roof. So GSA has reached out to the towns. They've done their due diligence to see if we have any interest in that. I've talked to Kevin Doobie. I mean, we always have, obviously, an interest in having a building to put equipment or sand and winter salt storage. Is something that we've always looked at, is that we could use some extra room. I have to put this before the board, and whether or not we have any use for it would be, I think that would be the limitation of what use we would have for that building. If this board were to move forward and say, yeah, we're interested in it, you could make an offer. You could say, well, I'll give you $10 for that building. All right, it's going to cost us an amount of money to take it down and put it on and store it somewhere until we decide that we want to build it. So what I did, I didn't have that in here, information, because this came to me not that long ago. I did reach out to a local contractor who has experience in metal buildings and a crane to erect, or in this case, disassemble buildings, to get a budget ballpark price for what it would cost to take that building down, put it on pallets, and move it to our public works facility in the event that we would want to maybe build part of it in the future. You wouldn't have to build the whole thing. You could build whatever length of it that you wanted, if you wanted to. And so the contractor came in today. I explained to them this is not a binding contract or a bid. I just need to have a figure for my board so they can make a decision as to whether or not they're interested in putting some sort of offer for this. So Contractor came in, he said, you're looking at about $25,000 to $30,000 to put that building to the ground and store it wherever you want for future use. So with that said, I felt that that would be a helpful number for you to help your decision, is to say whether or not, yeah, this is worth it, or no, we're not interested. Because if obviously the contractor would come in and say it's going to cost you $200,000 to tear that down, it's a no. I think that's a no deal breaker. 20, 25, 30 grand. We still have to put it back up somewhere. I don't think that's a bad price. And also it depends what the GSA would entertain for an offer from the town, if the town was interested. So with that said, it's your decision to make. I've gotten you all the information that I think is relevant for you to make a decision on that.
Do we know, Gary, how old this building is?
I don't know the age. I don't know the age. You know, the siding is not in great shape, but this metal structure is perfect. And so, you know, it's not a bad building. I think for a contractor who is going to bid on it, because that's what they do, it's a heck of a deal, because they can get themselves a warehouse very cheap, because they're not going to charge themselves the labor. For us, it's a different story. We don't have the equipment or the manpower to do that work ourselves, to take it down and to put it back up. So that's something that would be an investment the town would have to think about making in the future.
Too bad it wasn't on the board. I'd go for it, yeah, buy it.
Yeah, it's not a bad building.
It's a 50 by 150 feet?
Yeah.
What's your ceiling height?
It's 14 feet at the E. It's got a 14-foot overhead door. So it's got probably another 5 feet.
How wide is the door, the front door?
I didn't measure the door, but it's wide. It's probably
14, 16 feet wide?
Oh, more than, I think it's 20.
Yeah, it'd be well worth it, because just that building alone, to buy the building by itself, brand new, you're looking at almost $250,000. A building of that size.
Kev, could you use this building, and would you put it up if we decided to put a bid on it?
In a perfect world, yes. But with everything we're facing now with money, I think it's more of a bother and an expense than we can afford right now. It would be nice to have it, but the thing is you gotta have to put all new metal and all new schools. The only thing would be good is the framing, but with everything we're facing now, I think there's more important places to put that $30,000. That's my opinion.
What I was going to mention is, I agree, looking at the siding, we know we're not going to put this up in the next 2 or 3 years, and how is that siding going to survive our winters buried under 10 feet of snow?
Not only that, anybody that has any experience in taking apart an existing building and trying to put it back together as a puzzle, I can assure you that all of the hardware, nuts and bolts, are going to have to be replaced, because with the rust that's on these bolts presently, whether they're galvanized or not, you're going to have to take them out with an impact wrench. The heat generated, you'll never put those back together again. No, this, in my opinion, is not a worthwhile venture to support what Kevin is saying, that at this point in time, if you consider, I know when the building was built, if you consider the age of this building, certainly not a viable interest for the town of Madawaska at this point in time.
I agree.
Okay. Anything else?
And I agree too. I mean, I had to put it before you guys and give you all the information available. I mean, we're not ready to take on that kind of investment. Structure's good. The metal siding and the roof, you're going to tear it down because you're not going to be able to put it back and make the holes match, right? So you're putting the metal walls of the roof anyway. It's basically the frame. That's good.
So what's the next step for the government now? I mean, if we decide we don't want it, they're just going to destroy it?
No, I mean, they're going to put it out there for state and local government. So officially, we're going to take a position that we're not interested. They may ask the county, for instance, if they're interested, or any other state and local government agency that might be interested. And if nobody's interested in it, then they're going to go out to bids. And what I did forget to mention is that it needs to come out. The deadline for removal is around October 1. Because they do want to tear the building down and remove the footings and foundation this fall.
Do we have a motion? Does we want to accept this building or put a bid for this building? If we have no motion, then we'll just deny the consideration. Article 10, updates by the Public Works Director on road projects.
I put together a packet for all of you, what we've done so far, what's been spent.
Which I can appreciate. I like what you did.
And I like to
It
try
kind of
to
gives us a good overview of
give
what
you guys a visual on what we've been doing.
Yep.
We spoke in June that we were moving forward to prepare some roads, the worst sections, and then hot topping. Well, now with everything going on, that the budget hasn't passed, I can see the frustration of some of the taxpayers that came here tonight, the voices of the road, because I'm just as frustrated as them. We're in a world of trouble, and this has been going on for a long time now, and it's a lot bigger than what it seems. So I'm just coming here tonight just to ask what direction to move. I've got $70,000 in my road reserve, $69,860. And I was using that to prepare the roads, but the thing is that I don't want to open up a whole bunch of areas and not be able to afford to finish it off. So we took the most crucial one that was the worst off, and we did that one for now, until I can get guidance from the board and the town manager where else we're going to go if we're going to continue. I know that right now, as of now, that my road reserve, if I pay that off, is done. And I don't like doing that, using all that to pay off hot top, because road reserve was made, in my opinion, to prepare roads underneath the structured culverts, and then the hot top account is the hot top on top, in my opinion. Because what happens now is that if we use everything to pay off hot top, and I've got culverts in the back roads that have been patched, and we hit an issue next spring, I've got no money left, so I'd like to keep it pushing. But with the budget not passing, I've got $325,000 possible that's voted for this year, like we've done every year. We allocate to repair our roads. And as of now, I'm on hold. I stopped everything at the end of last week until I get direction of where we're going to go with that. Because I'm not spending money that we don't have, that's for sure.
So I'll piggyback on Kevin. So right now, we are operating under a continuing resolution, which was allowed by the governor's executive order. So we are allowed to operate under a continuing resolution until we adopt our budget, whenever we're able to adopt our budget. So the continuing resolution allows us to operate under last year's budget. So, but at some point in time, the new budget's going to take over. And so when you talk about large project and large expenses, here we are, this is construction season, okay? And work needs to get done. We're going to get going on our budget process to hopefully have our town meeting here in September. And we're at the end of the construction season, and so Kevin's at a standstill. We can make an assumption that that the people will support the budget, ultimately that we ask them to support the town meeting for roads and whatever, on all the other services and things that we do. So it was not my call or Kevin's call or any board member's call individually to say we're going to continue and make an assumption that the budget is going to pass, whatever that is. And so we're stuck. This is not a problem unique to Madawaska. A lot of towns are operating under a continuing resolution right now. They were waiting on revenue sharing figures, which came in today, and it came in good. Reasonable compared to what we thought. Not quite as much as what we had hoped to get, but still more money than we were getting last year. So for me, that's remarkable. So I think at this point, you know, we're going to decide here tonight how we're going to start our budget process, when, what that might look like. The window for doing paving projects is closing quickly. And I'm not sure if we're gonna wait for the budget process to move forward in the town meeting ultimately to get those funds appropriated, we're probably gonna be pretty late to the construction season to be taken on to some paving projects. Okay, not ideal. On the other, and so that means waiting till next year. Or this board uses the power of the continuing resolution and hopes that the townspeople will support the budget that's put before them to pay for those expenses that we would incur in the next, 30, 60 days, 90 days, if you will, of construction season.
So, well, I'll speak for myself. We need collectively, as the board and as public citizens, to start to prioritize all of our spendings for the town of Madawaska. I may not be correct with this, but I believe that our roads is a large part of our spending because it's costly. And I think that based on the numbers from revenue sharing that you got today, that we start to think in terms of, by percentage, applying these funds. It's a shot in the dark, but if these funds are coming, we need to start divvying up these funds to the things by priority for the town of Madawaska. Downtown revitalization is nice, but is it a necessity? And we're getting it right from the horse's mouth here tonight, that we have a lot of roads that are deteriorating, that if we put it off too long, it's going to cost us way beyond what it would cost us today. So I think that we should nip it in the bud, prioritize our jobs and our areas of spending, and now that we do have numbers, concrete numbers, that we can base our thoughts on prior to going to town meeting, it gives us an idea on how much we can be spending and not get in trouble, if that makes any sense at all.
I know.
You agree?
Well, to me, the roads, if the roads are not done, no one goes anywhere, so it doesn't matter what other department or expenses we have. To me, public works is it, and the roads are the most important thing. But just to clarify one thing, because downtown revitalization money is in a separate pocket, that money can't be touched for anything else, so those two things are not even, in my mind, in the same conversation. It's not like if you say stop that park, that we can build this, fix this road, or that money doesn't cross over at all, and I want to make sure that's clear. My question is, we had a board meeting when Dave was still on, and we talked about using a percent of what we thought the budget was going to be for next year. Are you saying that that's gone? You've gone to that. You haven't touched it.
I've used my,
Right.
I've spent what I have in my road reserve. I haven't paid the bills yet, but I've stopped at the $70,000 mark.
So the board a couple of months ago voted to have you spend up to, I think, 50%. Is that right? Do you remember, Gary?
Yeah,
I would need to have, it was 50%?
I don't want to say yes 100%, but it was something to that effect.
So is that the kind of thing you're looking for us as a board to reaffirm for you? Because we can't look at the revenue sharing number, if I'm correct, and say, oh, we're getting 500,000. It's a matter of, the resolution says we can go to the budget number of last year, and that wasn't 500,000, that was 325.
Well, so what we do...
That's based on a monthly basis, so we would figure that out over...
It's 112, but what happens is...
112.
We put $100,000 into the public works budget for roads, paving, cuts, patching, and all that stuff. The large capital outlays, okay, we fund the reserve account. Okay, so we historically used to put $350 in the public works budget for paving and improvements. But that was always a concern with the auditors because, and the board supported this, what we decided to do is that large projects, large paving projects are considered capital outlays. They should be considered as such. They're not a normal operating expense. And so what we decided to do for two reasons. For that reason, it was one. For the second reason is when you have money in a budget, say for instance, Public Works takes on a project and incurs bills in one fiscal year, and we go to the next, that fiscal year is done, and theoretically, we're not supposed to be able to go back and take any unspent monies. You can't do that from one fiscal year to the next. Once that June 30th is done, it's gone.
Says who?
That's how it works.
No, well, that's how, I want to know who is prohibiting us from doing that. That's what I need to know.
That is the tax commitment process and how it works in the state of Maine.
Is it law?
It is law. I can't cite you the law, but the tax commitment process is a one-year thing. It's not a continuation from one year to the next. So what we do for capital outlays, okay, is we budget to reserves. And the townspeople approve, we give the board authorization, we ask for authorization of the board to the town to say, shall the voters of Madawaska approve 300,000 or whatever the number is for road paving projects or whatever projects, reserve. We take the money, we put it in a reserve account. That money is not necessarily part of it. It's part of the tax commitment, but it goes into a separate account that can be pulled from any time at the discretion of the board. So if Kevin has a project that comes in, he has a large blowout of a large culvert in a stream somewhere, and it's not in his budget, he's going to come to the board through me, and he's going to say, hey, we need X amount of dollars to fix this. We have money in the reserves. Will the board let us take some of that money? You guys will say, yep, go right ahead, do it, you'll motion, and that gives us authorization to transfer funds from the reserve to Public Works to pay for that project. So that's how large capital projects are funded. They're funded through reserves.
When did we deviate from the $500,000 that was set aside a few years back specifically for hot top? When and where did we deviate from that?
I've never worked with that, so I can't tell you when. We've always budgeted a certain way. Every year, Dan, when you go to town meeting, the articles of business are what governs that.
No, I know that, but I do know for a fact that at one point in time, that David Morin had presented his case to the board that a $500,000 would be set aside, because David's rationale back then was that why is it that every year when we get to hot top that there's never any money? So at that time the board elected to set aside $500,000 to be coupled with the municipal garage account with the money that you've already got set aside for hot top. There was a $500,000 that was designated specifically for hot top, and I'd like to know when that was amended and why.
I don't have an answer.
Was that brought on the table? Was that brought on?
That's never something that
was discussed. I don't remember discussing it, but that might have been way before I got here.
Before you were on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no, we don't have a charter or anything that says this is what has to be done every year, right?
No.
So every board comes on and they change, and as people change and a new town manager comes on and things get changed, and it's kind of hard to go back and say exactly how, just like when the Historical Society was asking us when did they come off that they were not a warrant of their own anymore, an article of their own anymore. It's just things are fluid, and one thing we say here today is not going to be what they're going to do 3 years from now.
Well, okay,
So,
we're here today, we're in a dilemma. We have serious decisions to make, and from my position here, as long as our current municipal garage manager, whatever his title is, what's your title, Kevin? As long as he can bring concrete numbers to this board and prove what he needs, I will support that area of the budget for the town of Madawaska, for the simple reason that I'm of the belief that if we have no roads left here, no sense inviting anybody to come do business here. And right now we are at that point.
what amount legally can we approve for him to continue working?
We can, right now under the continuing resolution, we can do what we did last year.
1/12 of, or.
Well, I mean, but a lot of his funds, he's got the $100,000 in his regular budget, but then we also have the reserve account that we funded, the capital reserve account for these larger projects. Okay, so, you know, it's just, yeah, we do have the authority to continue that way, but on a 1/12 type of fashion, if you will. So whatever, if you had $250,000 in the road reserve, you would only be able to say, I can take 1/12 of that, or divide that by 12, and that's what you can spend per month. So,
I mean,
That's per month. That would be like from, so July,
July, August, July,
September,
August.
we're thinking we're gonna go to town meeting.
Yes.
So 3 months.
I'm confident that the people will support. Now, I'm very timely that we got our revenue sharing figures today. It helps a lot. So, and it's certainly going to help us bring forth a budget that's acceptable to the townspeople, that's not going to increase taxes. So I feel a lot better today having the benefit of that information than we did just a few weeks ago, not knowing, because we were all sitting there asking when are we going to hear? We don't know yet.
But from our past budget of last year for the municipal garage,
Yeah.
from main revenue sharing, what portion of main revenue sharing would have gone toward that amount?
It's not like that.
It's not.
It's not like that, Dave. What happens is, in the tax commitment process that we're going to embark upon after town meeting, all the revenues of the town, revenue sharing, Betty reimbursement, homestead, excise tax, all the receipts that we get become a large number in the tax commitment process, the tax commitment form. And that large number, around $101.5 million, is taken off the town's total budget to reduce the mill rate. So it's not that any amount of that money is parked anywhere in any department. That's not how it's done. It's not how it's been done.
Well, of the figure that you've received from main revenue sharing, if we take 1/3 of that, right, if we take 1/3 of the main revenue sharing, would that, in essence, on a seesaw, would it fulfill 1/3 of that man's budget for the year?
Which budget?
1/3 of what?
1/3 of the total revenue sharing that we received.
Where is that figure?
Would that fill 1/3 of his annual budget? That way that man could go to work for the next 4 months and continue on with projects before the snow flies.
That's a completely different process than what we normally, and I don't know that we could even work that way.
Well, the process that we're on isn't getting us anywhere.
So.
Getting us deeper in the hole.
Technically, right now, we're assuming revenue sharing for this year of $582,935. You're saying 1/3 of that?
well, I mean, can I say something? We can come up with all kinds of numbers, but I can say right now I'm going to approve $200,000, but can you do $200,000 worth of work in the next 3 months? I think we need to ask Kevin for his expertise and find out what amount of work can you do, Kevin, until we do approve the budget? And can we suffice taking that amount that he can do of work so he doesn't sit on his hands and approve that safely and reliably until we can finish the budget process?
How much money do you need, Kevin, to go full swing for the next 3 months? How much money do you need?
I recommend that our budget is $325 a year for hot top. If they can put 50%, that would be a safe number. So I can go ahead and move forward and do what I gotta do to patch, like we did. I can patch Guyer Road, Navalsu Road, Lakeshore Road, Greenpoint, and 24. That was my next 4 roads that we're gonna attack. Okay. If I can get 50% of my budget, and I have no problem revisiting back this in the next 3 or 4 weeks at the next board meeting and saying things are going great, I don't need any more money for now, or we did a little more, or we found other stuff, I'll need extra, and then we can make another decision then.
So we had already approved 50%. So I'm back to my original question. You are asking us to reaffirm the 50% that the board prior already approved for you to do.
Okay, because
Right?
I was just told that everything was on hold after we went through the road review.
No, yeah, so the prior board had already approved 50%. I would make a motion that this board affirms that original approval, and we approve Kevin 50% of the budget so that he can keep going.
Before we do that, would that help your situation, Kevin?
Yeah, I could get back to work and finish off, and I, you know, I could do what I need to do before winter. Because what's happening is that if we don't fix these roads, we're ruining equipment, we're giving the drivers a risk, you know, they get into an accident because of that, because the plows are sinking through the roads, and, you know, I just want to be able to do what I need to do.
Gary?
I'm confused about why why you didn't think you could. You know, is this not the same approval that we just went through?
I'm not sure, Lori. It was a lot of uncertainty. Okay, and for us, Kevin basically just came to us, you got done, what, last week?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're basically just asking to reaffirm. He hasn't been at a standstill for a long, long time. Well, they're never at a standstill, so let me take that.
Okay, I just was concerned they had stopped, and that was our point, like, let's make sure they don't stop.
I think for us, we need the reassurance that we have the backing of the board to make these kind of financial transactions happen.
Because the board has changed in the past couple of
It's fine, I just was concerned you had stopped, and I thought it didn't make
we did
sense
stop.
to me that you would have
We
stopped.
just finished up and we had to do
Okay.
it.
100% on my part.
So we have a motion on the floor? Is that
Yep.
what you-
Yeah, I second it.
All right, before we go into a vote, can we assume, if nothing else comes across, that we're going to be flat funding the budget,
Are you talking about the new budget?
the new budget?
I think that, you know, it's going to be
Going to be close.
It's going to be close. There are things that we had planned to possibly put before the board, such as replacing the roof at the safety complex because it was leaking. Well, you know, that would have been a project for the summer.
Well, that just makes me feel a little better that
And so
we're
that-
not going to have to increase taxes. You
And
know,
so I
that's
think-
the big concern right now. We're still trying to hold to our tax commitment, and if you're telling us that we're somewhat close with what you've seen at this point, then you would have my vote to go forward. Anyway, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. That's good. That's good, that's good. Article 11, updates by the Economic Director on Madawaska / CDBG facades program.
Hey guys. So it's in the packet, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so in your packets you have the, I was finally able to, it's a long time in the works, but I have in front of you have the facade program guidelines as well as the application. I've received some comments from when we got this grant, this $100,000 grant, I put together a committee, an advisory committee. So that committee has received this. They've given some input. My goal is to get it in front of you folks and have you read through it, provide any comments or feedback that you have. From there, I'll be able to button that all up and be able to advertise this program and begin to receive applications for this funding.
I'm unclear on the committee part.
When you get CDBG funds like that through the state, part of what the state requires you to do is you put together sort of a resource committee. So I pulled together a few members of our grant plan committee. Doug is on there, a couple citizens, because the state wants to have additional input.
Now, see, I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed to any committee outside of the Board of Selectmen. I am.
Okay, I didn't make that rule. The state makes that rule. So
I'm not saying you did.
Yeah, I certainly.
The Resource Committee and the Finance Committee, no. The taxpayers have traditionally had a Board of Selectmen to make the decisions.
Yep.
That's their appointment, that's their duty, that's their function, and if it's over their head, they don't belong here.
Right. Okay.
Secondly, the grant. I want to know about that grant. I know that Santa Claus died 1956, the day after I was born. there is no such thing as free money. And I want to know for sure and for certain that if we accept this grant, are there any ties, are there any threads that are going to pull us in any direction? Are we going to have to commit to other things? Are we going to have to commit to making loans to subsidize the grant or any unfinished products?
We've already accepted the grant, so I'm not asking you to accept the 100,000 or not. All I'm doing is putting this in front of you for your review and your comments. But no, to answer your question, no. So there isn't any free money. The grant that we received, which we used our $3 million bond for downtown revitalization as leverage for this, we originally had applied for a downtown revitalization grant, which was for $300,000. When it came time to award the money, the state had it split between us and another community, so they gave the other community $200,000, they gave us $100,000, which we were going to be used as...
See, these are the kind of things that the general public is not aware of. That when we talk about grants, well, that didn't cost the town anything. That was a grant. But with that grant, you have to borrow so much money to continue a certain project. There's always little catches. There's always little catches, and I don't like that.
Right, I can tell. Yeah, I can certainly tell. Yeah, but no, I mean the only catch to this is that it's a matching grant. It's
a matching grant.
Well, for the facade program. So if a business or a building owner on Main Street, and I guess you haven't read through all the guidelines, but it's up to a $10,000 grant, and it's 50% match per business or building owner. Right. So if I wanted $10,000 worth of grant funds, I would have to put in $5,000 of my own money.
So from what I understand, from what I read, which I did read,
okay,
and I take personal offense to your statement.
Okay.
This applies only to the storefront.
The facades, yes. What's visible from Main Street.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to take off on a tangent, but I just took it for granted that the amphitheater area, is that project complete?
It's almost complete.
Okay. I'm not against the facade, the facelifts, but past few days, and don't try to link the last names with my name and Daigle Furniture and Appliance. I've been driving by that amphitheater area, very pretty, but the side of Mr. Glenn Daigle's store, that building was built in 3 separate time frames. We've taken down those buildings, we have the amphitheater, everything's all fixed up. That man right now, at the last meeting I stated that we're far better to try to help out the existing businesses, to try to keep them afloat before we start bringing in new businesses. I think that the side and not the facade of that building, he's done what he's could, what he's been able to with the funds. Right now he has 0 funds.
Right.
So I think that we should be looking to the downtown revitalization funds to help Mr. Daigle fix up the side of that building.
Cannot use that money.
Sir, but
the grant, yes.
To answer your question, his side of his building right now is now visible from Main Street. If he wants to apply for that side of the building, he can use that grant fund for that. Because...
Well, you just said it was the facade only.
Right, what's visible from Main Street. And before, when there were houses there, it wasn't visible from Main Street, but now you can do the side of that, because as you drive by it, it is visible from the Main Street area. So yes, facade is technically the front, but in an instance like that, where there's a vacant spot, that is considered a facade because it's visible.
Okay, can you elaborate as to why downtown revitalization money cannot be used?
Downtown revitalization money, the bond, is for public property. It's not to be put on private property.
Well, what if we put up, we've got some beautiful poles there up front, those wooden poles. What if we put a string of them down on town property, strap that and put nice sheet metal to the height of that building, make a wall on town property? Out of sight, out of mind. Right now he's got a chimney there that is no longer functional. It's a brick chimney. It's falling apart, it's falling down. He does not have the funds to put up a new chimney. If any of you know anything about putting up chimneys, so he's gone an alternate route. He's going to put up a metal asbestos chimney, one of these aluminum stacks. which he admits, he'll be the first to admit that it's unsightly. So these are the kind of things we need to be considering when we're talking about downtown revitalization and facade and facelifts. That we're gonna go spend $300,000, $500,000 to make an amphitheater, and we have a place next door that has been just opened up to the public eye, not by his doings, not by his fault, but at this point in time, he doesn't have the funds to fix up that side of the building. And I think it's a responsibility of the town when we have money for downtown revitalization to help out people like this.
Have you talked to him? Glenn?
Yeah, I've talked to him numerous times on this process.
So you've been in a conversation with him, you know the issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
All right.
So I guess really, I was just, and it doesn't have to be here tonight, we don't have to sit here for 2 hours and discuss line by line, because you guys just got this not very long ago. But I would love to get your input, either via email or a visit to come see me, or I can go see you, and kind of go over it. I'd like to at least touch upon, I'd like to talk about the program with each of you individually, and get any comments or concerns that you have before I make this final and get the program started.
I'd like to see this discussed at the board level, not individually.
Okay. We can put it on the next agenda item if you'd like. I don't mind coming back, and once you guys have had more of a chance to...
job.
I mean...
Hey? It's a two-way street.
I have a question. I just want to know the cost of maintenance for the parks per year.
There's going to be lawn care, trimming shrubs, so it'll be mostly labor and mulching materials, stuff like that.
Okay. So that was that assessed, or is that just?
Pardon?
Is that just something you're going to take care of as it comes along?
We're going to discuss that in our budget process. If we can make adjustments to the budgets to take care of the maintenance, then that's something that we'll do.
So I got a question. So you did mention matching grant. That's a matching grant that the business owner pays, not the town.
Yes, yeah,
I just want to clarify
the
that.
matching grant is from the business or the building owner, correct? Yes.
Now, what do you foresee, let's say we go through that whole $100,000, what do you foresee from this point forward would be any expenses incurred by the town for that?
Wait, sorry, I don't know what you mean.
No,
we're not going to...
What I'm trying to get at.
Right,
so-
we're not going to exceed the 100,000, yeah, so that
No,
part of
I'm
that...
saying as far as the town itself, so the town will not be expending any money.
No.
Okay,
No.
that's what I'm just trying to clarify.
Right, yes,
make
yeah,
sure that
correct, yeah.
It's 50% matched by the business owner.
or the building owner,
And
yeah.
it's not gonna cost the town any extra additional money
Correct.
for that 100,000.
Correct.
And what you're coming to us for is just to basically involve us in the program.
Yes.
Show us what you've done.
Yep.
I do understand that the committee is state mandated. It would be nice if the board could be involved maybe
Right,
in making some of these final decisions.
Right.
The committee can bring those decisions to us to review, but,
course,
I mean,
yeah.
I definitely think it's definitely a good program, something we can help
Yeah.
improve as long as the money's used for the right.
So they have to put in at least 50%. I mean, they could do more if they need to, but.
Right, if it goes
If they
over
need
the
to go
max,
for
yes.
it's a $50,000 project, they're only gonna get 10.
10, correct. Yeah, it's a max of $10,000 that we, yeah. And the reason that number was there was that we don't want to fund one $80,000 project and...
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Gary?
So is that facade grant only good for, again, quote unquote, downtown revitalization, or is that townwide?
When we applied for that grant, we had to make an area of focus. So the area of focus that when we applied for it was between Mill Street and the Kmart Plaza. Now, it's not to say that if there isn't enough activity within that, we do have some leeway to expand further out. But the thought process behind that is if you're going to have a certain amount of grant funds go to revitalize downtown, you want to focus in on a certain area and not go from town line to town line, where you won't see that.
So what happens if you don't get enough applications or you don't spend the 100,000?
I'd have to work with my contacts at the state there to see what that leeway is and what we have to do. I don't know that off the top of my head.
So my next question is, how come both ends of town are neglected at this point? If the funds were, if it's a grant, it's a matching grant, facade grant, it should have been a facade grant from East Main Street all the way through the town line of West Main Street. With the town, the businesses, every business on the Main Street of Madawaska should be allowed to borrow and spend and have rent money equally. And not just focus one little area where little activity is happening now, that all the activity is on both ends of this town.
Does the state have a program?
This has already gone through, the grant's already approved.
Listen, hold on now. Keith, is there such a program? I mean, other than us creating one,
No, when we.
you know, this is a funded program, it's a grant. So is there anything out there that we can apply for that would resemble?
When we applied for this downtown grant, had we applied and had a 2-mile area, the chances of us getting funded for that would have been slim to none. They want to see, these downtown revitalization grants are for.
And there has to be designations of slum and.
Right, yes.
In order for the grant to move forward.
Yeah, but we're not talking Fifth Avenue in New York City. We're talking about a 2-mile stretch on Main Street, Madawaska, Maine. You take individual businessmen like him that are continually left out of the loop. Not fair for businessmen like that.
And I have been out of that loop since 1990, when the first grant came into Madawaska. I was left out of the loop because the loop stopped at 14th Avenue and it went East Main Street all the way to 6th Ave. And now here we are in 2020 and it's the same problem. It's still over there to over there, but nobody on the east end is out. And your business and your major activity is happening at both ends of this Madawaska town. Thank you.
I mean, I do think maybe for this grant it's too late for that, but I think Gary has a good point there. I think we should maybe start focusing on some grants that may cover some of these outside locations who have not gotten some funding. I totally understand why this one had to be that limited area, but I would like to foresee in the future some grants or some money that we could apply to some of these other businesses who have been left out.
That's fair.
I don't think there's any action that we need to take on this article.
Thank you for your time.
Yep, go ahead, Laurie.
So first, just for the record, I was to be on the committee that Keith had to put together for the state. And I have chosen to abstain because I don't want to get involved in this program at all or anything, because next year when I'm not on the board, should there be money left, there's always a chance I might apply for some. So I don't want to be involved in this whatsoever next year. But I just want to make one point, and I get it's heated. I have no idea, Gary, how you feel about 20 years ago or what's been happening. I just want to ask you guys to remember, and we've said it a million times, it's up to us to make a difference going forward. This downtown revitalization was decided by a board 2 boards ago. This happened 2 years ago. To sit here and beat up this guy for a grant that was approved and decided upon and guidelines that were chosen by a board that was sitting here is totally unfair. He's doing his best to put a program together that he was directed to put together by people prior to us, and we can sit here and beat these guys up all freaking day long for, but it's not like we sat here and said, Keith, you're going to do this from this end of town to that end of town, and then he failed. He did exactly what he was told to do. So I wish that we could please try to work with these guys to help them finish what they were directed to do. The money's sitting here, we have to use it. And then be conscious of what our decisions are going forward to make this the place that we want. And there's no need. I'm sorry, it just really pisses me off that we're going to sit here and tear down an employee that's sitting here just doing the job he was asked to do. And he did it well. There's detail. The state made him make the committee. I guess that's it. I mean, I just, can we not just respect each other and say, going forward, let's just try to do better. That's all.
Well, my mind on that is we hire an individual to do a certain job, doesn't matter which job it is in the town of Madawaska. We pay an individual to do a job, he should be competent. I'm not saying that any person is perfect, but as an economic development person, he should have insight into the kind of problems he's going to run into if specifically, like on this one, if I designate only a certain amount of time, that man there for the last 20 years, put yourself in his shoes, and I know, I have coffee with that man every morning at 5 o'clock. And I know for a fact that that man sitting right there works 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is there anybody else in this room that can make that statement?
Nobody's denying that. Nobody's denying that, but you don't need to tear someone else
Another grant to the
up.
town of $100,000 to revitalize downtown Madawaska. What part of his job did he not do? You're making an effort to shut down a job and a grant that has been accepted. It's here, the money's there. You weren't there, he wasn't there at the meeting. That's his choice and your choice. This grant is approved for downtown revitalization. Why beat him up? That's what she's making a very valid point, and you're disturbing it. It's true. He did his job and got the town $100,000 of matching grant money to improve the way our downtown looks. Congratulations, Keith. Thank you for doing that.
Well, that's my point. If he did exactly what he was told.
He did.
Give me a minute here.
There's nothing more to talk about. He did what he was told at that time.
Sir, would you be quiet, please? If he did exactly what he was told, he was given wrong direction from the leaders from the board and from the manager.
Maybe, but how's that his fault?
It needs to be taken up with the board, the previous board.
Then
Take it up with me.
you owe him an apology. 100%. You do.
Well, we can take that up privately. So there is no action on this article, so we're going to move on from there. Article 12, Town Manager's Report.
So my report to the board for the weekend period ending August 1, 2020. Just some, you have some detailed bullets. I'll just touch upon them quickly. If you want me to expand upon them, just ask. The International Bridge Project is moving along. Expected to go out to bid around November. MDOT has pre-qualified 3 contractors. Because of the complexity of the project, they're using 3 contractors to be pre-qualified to give them logistical information about how this project is going to come about, the bridge project. Because of the river, how far it is down, the flows, the ice flows, the temporary bridges, the approach, there's so much to this project, it's astounding. So those 3 companies are Reed & Reed, Chimbro, and Caldwell & Ross, which is a Brunswick company. The schedule for construction to begin is spring 2020 with an anticipated opening the fall of 22. The town has a sewer line there that's going to be affected. It's at the bottom of the hill below the warehouse building that we were talking about earlier, parallel to the railroad track. The state of Maine DOT, as part of this project, will be relocating that line. They've engaged the services of our engineers who have been doing our sewer engineering work to get all the technical data for the project. What's the size of the line? How deep is it? Where is it? What are the materials? What needs to go in there? So that's that work is being done right now. You have the narrative of what that is all about. Big part of the project is going to be the bypass of that sewer line for what could be a period of anything from 3 to 5, 6 days, while the line is taken out of service and reconnected alongside. And that bypass project is going to involve either some temporary pumping measures over the ground, pipes to the other catch basins, rerouting flow during the period that change is being made. And it could even for a while involve pumping, which are taking waste from one collection point to another to help facilitate the project. All those costs will be borne by DOT. DOT is paying for the relocation, the design work, all easements that need to be put in place for that. Since the pipeline is moving a little bit, there's going to need to be some detailed easement work, either on MDOT property or Eastern Maine Railway. The Madawaska Land Port of Entry is also on schedule, anticipated to go out to bid by this fall. The earliest of work will begin this fall with the removal of the Twin Rivers warehouse and the foundations for the structure. There's already been work done, survey work. They've done some coring samples of the ground over there. So the project is moving forward. If anybody has any doubts, put those to rest. The project is on schedule to begin next spring, and we'll have a schedule for opening concurrent to the bridge opening in the fall of 22. I have a typo in that, sorry. 2022. St. John Valley Chamber has been working diligently to come up with a new program for the downtown, which is the flea market. It's what is dubbed the first annual. That's going to be from August 13 to 16, 1 to 7 p.m. The town has agreed to work with the chamber, provide manpower from the rec department, tents, setting up tents to facilitate that activity. We know that their next bullet is that there's a potential solar project, solar array for St. David. It's a private project, private developers who right now the project is in front of the planning board. And I'm aware that there have been some land secured for the project. More information to come on that as it comes to us. November elections, we're thinking about that. We had our elections, local elections and primaries at the multipurpose. It worked really well for us to flow people through without having any issues for social distancing and all that stuff, being COVID compliant. It proved to be a very well area. Amy, our election clerk, and all the staff thought that the venue was good for the elections. And so going into November, likeliness that we won't be able to do the elections at the KC. We won't be compliant there, and that the venues for having the elections, the space that we need, the parking, puts us back at the multi, because I don't think we have access to the school's facilities, because they're going to be in session. Okay, so, and then the school's facilities might not be suitable, parking and all those things as well. So, sounds like it's easy enough. We did it this spring, we did it this summer. We can do it in November. The difference is probably going to have to heat that building for that event. So I know that there are funds that will be made available to municipalities to offset increases in costs to accompany these elections to be compliant. That's going to be our goal. We're going to get more information on that. And as my bullet says, more updates to follow on this topic. Downtown Pocket Parks progress, the work is moving along. In here, we have a list of things that are left to do, which is the final coat of paving on the parking lot of Levitt Ave, installation of lighted bollards and plaza string lining on the wood posts, concrete curbs at the parking lot, scheduled for tomorrow, weather permitting, and the remainder of plantings for trees, flowers, and shrubs. All I have at this time.
I have a question that mentioned, did I misunderstand on the heating? Are you talking about the multi-purpose during the time of the election?
Yeah, and I think what, I'm not sure if my notes, so the Chamber of Commerce has experienced heating the multi with their Top of Main event trade show. And they've enlisted contractors to.
But for voting, have these people enjoy snowmobiling 12 hours at a time. They don't need heating to go in to vote. They're in there 5 minutes, get out.
You have older people that go there, Dan. You have to think of that.
You have staff working there all day long for 12 hours.
Well, let's get some numbers. Let's get some numbers on costs to heat that building.
Yeah, that's what our plan is.
I'm sure it'll be far less to buy snowmobile suits and boots for the people that work there.
You have to wait long enough for that to wait.
Okay.
Okay, so that there's no action on the Article 12. Are we discussing when to meet as far as the budget meetings
We
are
do have one
concerned?
other thing, we've got to go into executive session.
Can we talk
Oh, yes,
about-
I'm sorry, yes.
Can we talk about our next meeting?
Yeah.
I like this direction there.
Yeah.
Can we do this first while people are here and while we're,
Yes.
Okay,
because we talked about this the last meeting and we still don't have a date for a budget meeting.
We talked about setting that at this meeting. The budget meetings. When we
Okay,
had our
I
last meeting.
misunderstood because I thought we left the last meeting and we were gonna all be reached out to set a meeting, so, okay.
I guess that's not how I understood it. So I think, the goal was.
Because we need to have them quick.
Yeah, and I agree, and it's great that we have revenue figures now, that we can
yeah,
feel safe
that's
with.
nice to have.
Move forward. Like I said, I would like to really get going now, in that when we last had this meeting, our board meeting, I was anticipating getting revenue figures because I knew that the forecasting committee had met but they hadn't given the report to the state office, to the state treasurer. So now we have our revenue sharing projections perfect. We can start meeting. How aggressively we want to meet, how many departments we want to tackle, and when setting is going to be up to you. To me, I think we're all interested in getting this done.
Are we discussing just this board or the finance committee? Is that still in the picture, or how do we move forward here?
So if I could offer a suggestion, the finance committee was already involved earlier on.
Yep.
So they've been given the gist of the budget.
Yep.
But we've made some tweaks with it now that we have hard numbers, because we're already into our fiscal year. They're going to be given the same information that you're going to get for the budget. To me, I think that we have them there right away, because you can sit here and deliberate amongst yourselves if you want, and then call the finance committee. But they've already did their first pass at the budget.
Where does the finance committee come into this? I question the legality of this, of the finance committee.
The finance committee was a committee that was approved at a board town meeting in 2015, and I got the bylaws. I sent it to Menno, and I can send it to you so that you have it for your information. But there is representation on that finance committee that plays an integral role in our budget development.
Well, I'm of the opinion that that's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. That's my stand.
So, Lori, I mean, are you in favor of the idea of what, all of us together in a meeting? The finance committee and this board?
Well, being on the finance committee myself and reading the bylaws and all of that, I have a totally opposite opinion of Dan, and here's why. And not that you're wrong, because I'm new to all of this. The finance committee for me has not, I feel, until a lot of them have said in the past that they felt that they weren't a part of the discussion enough. The finance committee is supposed to just kind of sit here and help us with checks and balances. The more heads that talk about a budget and ask questions, like I found very helpful. Some of them asked questions that I didn't think to ask, and I was, oh, okay, and it led me to ask something else. So for me, if there were 30 people in the room asking questions about the budget, and if all these people were there asking questions about the budget, I would prefer that. So the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. Yes, the decision is just for us.
It's still relies
It's
on
still
us.
us.
They don't decide anything.
I think, these people and on the finance committee have knowledge of things that I have no idea. So yes, if they can be at every meeting, if they want to be, that would be perfect as far as I'm concerned. It's not like they get to vote on whether we present the budget or not. It's just...
At the end of it all, what it ends up looking like when we bring the warrant to the townspeople is you're going to have an article for a particular department, for a particular thing, and it's going to say, shall the voters of Madawaska, recommended by the finance committee, recommended by the board, recommended by the finance committee. And you might see recommended by the board, not recommended by the finance committee. So they make a recommendation or not. And they can also give you input to help you in your process. But ultimately, the decision, what goes on the warrant for the voters to consider is vested in this board with recommendations from others.
Well, we can go back and review the footage from the 2 meetings back in February before COVID hit, the 2 meetings of the Finance Committee. And throughout both meetings, and I was there, not a peep was said from the Finance Committee, and I sat there scratching my head, asking myself, what's the purpose of this?
The first two, I'm sorry, I'm the big mouth here, guys.
Go ahead.
The first 2 meetings were with the department heads to bring them in and go through the budget, and it's basically the department head wish list or what he feels he needs to run his department in the way he needs to run it. And we asked questions based on the line items that were there. What is this for? What is that for? What is this? How come this is different than last year? Those first meetings were the meetings that you missed that we need to have so that you can ask Kevin and Sam and about, okay, you're asking for $10,000 for this, what is it for? those were not meetings, as far as I'm concerned, to decide if we're gonna cut something or not. It was basically to just listen and ask questions. And then we need to talk about, okay, well, if we want to cut a mill or we want to do whatever, where are we going to cut? But we need to understand those budgets from their perspective first. And the finance committee did ask some questions because questions came up that, you know, Chris and Ken asked that I was like, oh, I didn't think that way. So I really beg to differ that they didn't
Are we doing a line
participate.
item, are we doing a line item budget?
Yeah, right? I mean,
There was some discussion on that.
we should go through it again with the
We're
department
gonna
heads.
We're gonna go through the budget, we
Right.
have our accounts and our lines, and we go through that,
Yeah.
line by line.
I think you guys need that first pass first, so that you understand what every line is for, and you can ask the department heads what it is that they're asking for. Because we can't just, we're not just gonna sit here and say, okay, I'm cutting this, I'm cutting this, I'm cutting this, and we don't even know what it is, some of it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, from my perspective, when addressing the budget, once again, it's no secret, the big tax issue in Madawaska right now is the deficit that we're left with because of the situation, the tax situation with the Twin Rivers Paper Company. But let's say 6 years ago, when we discovered that we were in serious financial trouble because of the shortfall of tax revenue, why is it that we didn't ask every single one of our individual departments, seeing that we weren't getting those revenues, why did we not ask for a 10% cut across the board on every budget?
Well, I don't know that we can discuss that.
Simple mathematics.
I don't know that we can discuss that here tonight. I don't know that we're ready for that. But anyway, do we address the finance committee? Do we have them here with us?
I think we should.
I think we should. I think it's a good idea.
Typically, the normal budget process is first with the board and the department, okay? And then, and that might take several meetings. We'll take 3 or 4 departments or 2, depending on the size of the.
But do we have that this year?
Just.
I'm thinking like 2 or 3 meetings then.
So hold on. So this year, there was some interest in the finance committee to be able to sit in on all the meetings. Okay, typically the finance committee's role was to let the board do their thing first. The finance committee gets the information, and when the board has made their first pass, we get the finance committee involved and we go through the process. But the finance committee really wanted to be engaged from the outset, so we obliged. So they've been at meetings, and sometimes they were just sitting there listening because that's what they were there for, to listen. Okay? We're now in a situation because of COVID that we need to work on our budget. We've been waiting patiently for figures, and now we've got them. But we need to get going here. And the clock is ticking. I mean, we need to commit taxes. We need to get revenue in the door. We're paying bills all the time. And we can't wait too long. And so you just start thinking about the budget process and getting that budget to a place where you feel comfortable you can put it before the voters, and then we're going to draft the warrant. We're going to send the town book to the print shop and get that back so that the town report can be in the hands of the voters at least 3 days, no less than 3 days before the town meeting. Okay? And so there's a lot of things that happen, proving just the act of getting the warrant, getting the warrant for the town meeting ready for you to consider requires posting a meeting and you guys acting upon it. That's a week. Okay, so that being said, I think that it would be good if we could engage the finance committee right away. They've already had the first glance at the budget. It's not changed too much, other than we have actual year-to-date financials column added into the budget because we know what it is. The last time we did this in March, we were 9 months into the budget, if you will, and that's what we were showing as fiscal year-to-date spent, but now we have the actual to show, which is helpful. So I think if I had to make a recommendation is that the board meets with the departments, bring in the finance committees, try to get it done in a couple of meetings if we can. If it's too much, 3 meetings, so that we can really get going, get the budget to where this board is comfortable with it.
Did you say a couple meetings, Gary?
A couple marathon-style meetings. I like long meetings.
Because my next question was
dedicated-
traditionally, how many meetings would you be looking at to go through your entire budget? The only reason I'm asking is because come the end of the month, my evenings are all tied up with the bear hunts. I'm out every night.
I mean,
Hey, that's your problem.
That's, you're correct. You're correct, but that's my bread and butter.
last year,
That's my job.
we even did an afternoon kind of meeting, or we started in the morning and we had a marathon style meeting during the day. It's a public meeting, people can come in, it's advertised, to get it done. And we were able to do a whole lot more departments in one night, but sometimes in the past, the board has done board meetings and then they've stuck a couple budget line items in there, called it a board meeting / budget meeting. I think that, to get it done,
But you think 3 or 4 meetings that we can do this? We can get this wrapped up?
I think that we can do this in 2 to 3 meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the initial pass to go through with the department heads,
We're gonna
but
do that
then, if we want to make some changes, we're gonna need to really put our nose to the ground and have another
Yeah.
meeting. Like,
I mean,
we don't want to get into like a half-hour discussion about a line item while with the department heads here. Like, we need to do the whole, we're starting over, so we have to do a whole first pass with you guys. Right?
correct.
So let's just get it done.
So if we were going to say that we want to go to town meeting, say in what, mid-September? What kind of, if we were going to work backwards from there, how quickly do you think we need to meet and how often and how quickly can we get this?
I mean, are we gonna have 1 budget meeting per week?
Well,
Are we gonna have 2 budget meetings per week or
Lori, I mean,
that all depends on how much time the board is willing to dedicate.
It's our job. Like, let's stop talking about it.
I'm ready to just say, okay, when,
Like,
you know,
come on, you guys.
are you ready, are we ready to do this like next week? Do we start next week?
Listen, I will be here every single night until it's done,
Okay,
if that's
so-
what has to be done.
So what do we need as far as time to advise the,
Ready to put a date on the calendar.
No, but as far as your work schedule in the plan, is that flexible? Does that present a problem to you if we say we're going to meet 3 days in a row? 3 hours, is that a
I
problem
can
for
meet
you?
3 days in a row after hours, yeah.
after 5?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any, I hate to say it,
If
you
you want
can,
to do like a Saturday or.
Hey, I'll buy pizza. Not for the board, but not for the whole
We've done it.
public.
There's cupcakes at 5 o'clock in the morning at the bakery.
No, that's your problem.
No, but I'd be open to it all day Saturday or Sunday or something.
Yeah.
all day.
I'll buy lunch on Saturday if you guys,
So you want to plan for
Listen,
this Saturday?
I mean, I'm entertaining any date here, so whenever we want to start, I'm ready. So do we start next week? Is that the thought?
I would start tomorrow.
So, I mean, I guess, Gary, what I'm asking is, do we need advance notice to advise the,
oh, it's a board meeting and a finance committee meeting, so we're gonna post the agenda and what we're planning to discuss, if we want to take up, depending on how long we can agree to sit down and how many, that's going to dictate how many departments we're going to do and which ones, because we're going to try to fit that in for that time period that we think it might take. If there's some left business undone, we can't get it all done, we'll move that to the next meeting. But I guess my question to you is, if you want to do this in 3-hour night meetings in the evenings, it's going to take probably 3 to 4 meetings. If you want to do a couple marathon-style meetings and use a Saturday afternoon, for instance, or Saturday morning, or into the afternoon, that would definitely require less evening meetings.
do you, I'm assuming that you have to have 7 days to post?
It would be good if we could. There's no statutory requirement, but we like to advertise and give notice.
So we could start next week. We could start Tuesday, Wednesday. Bear season starts in September, so we're trying to get this done before then.
I mean, why don't
starts in 3 weeks.
why don't we try to schedule 2 days next week and then a Saturday marathon day?
See how
And then
much we can
get a
complete
start,
this.
and then from there we can identify if we need to go further.
If we do a marathon, I would prefer it in the morning because after, this is past my bedtime right now.
Oh my God.
Well,
I said,
I'll call you at 4 tomorrow morning.
All right. So how does Tuesday next week look?
oh, I'm busy.
So we're looking at September, no, not
Next month.
September, yeah.
So I'm open every evening next week.
So Tuesday, so the 11th?
Yep,
The 11th, and we'll do the 12th,
2 days in a row, yeah.
2 days in a row?
Sounds good.
See how much we can get done.
Yep.
I think what we can try to do is not necessarily limit ourselves to 1 or 2 or 3 departments. The only thing is we may invite a department head to be there and not have time to get to them.
Yep.
Off the top of your head, do you know how many different departments are we going to be talking with?
Oh my God, I had to ask, I'm going into the safe mode
Okay.
here. We have rec, we have the ambulance, PD, public works, pollution control, administration, elections, governing body, safety complex.
Okay, well, granted, some will take much longer than others.
Oh, yeah. The big ones are ambulance, public works.
Are you gonna look to try to schedule that,
Yeah.
like one big one and one small one for one night, or unless it takes a whole thing for one department? I don't know, I've never been through that.
We'll set it. How many? What time would your board meeting start, and how long would you be able to withstand
You know,
going without sleep?
I mean, do you actually work it till 5?
No, but if we start at 5,
Yep.
and then we can go till past Dan's bedtime.
So you're okay with 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say that we plan for 5, Lori? Yep, so 5 o'clock?
At 5 o'clock, we won't put a deadline on how late we want to work, but we'll post a meeting for 5.
Okay.
And then we'll work, Carol and I will sit down, we're meeting with departments right now,
Yep.
going over the budgets again, because this is Carol's first pass as well. And so we're going through that right now. We started today, and we're going to be meeting with the rest of the departments this week. We'll print out the budgets that are ready to go. I think they're pretty much all ready to go. We'll print those out, but we'll have the hard copies for you for the meetings that we're going to be at. Well, you're going to get most of them next week, so you'll have that for the weekend. Yep.
And the projected revenue sheets.
Yes.
And something that we were questioning that we didn't see was, and I understand it's self-funding, but I would still like to see something up from the rec programs. You know, the ones that fund themselves basically, just
to see what it is.
It doesn't have to be, you know, during that meeting, but I need the whole picture. My head just doesn't work any other way.
The meetings are gonna be here?
We'll have to be here, yes.
Okay.
Maybe we could take the admin and the board's portion and the portions that, you know, you're the department head, but like, and put those last instead of first, so that we could, you know, not waste the department head's time if they're sitting here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
I'm just full of good ideas.
That's right, you're done.
Okay, so budget's 11th and 12th at 5 o'clock here. How about our next regular meeting? Thursday.
You will keep an apology. Accountability, you will keep an apology.
September?
It'll be, I think, I don't know that you necessarily need to set that today. I mean,
No, I mean,
we can do that next week.
yep, we're meeting, so we'll be together.
Talk about our next meeting.
Okay, well then I
I
can,
don't know if it needs to be an agenda item or on the, okay, I really, so the 3 million for the roads was approved. We didn't go through with it because of that payment. I feel like that needs to be part of our budget discussion so that we can understand the impact. Like if we follow through with that 3 million in paving, that we understand the impact of that. So either we need to talk about it in the budget or we need it on the agenda. You know, because I know it sounded off, like I said, oh, enough, like like they're talking about roads and places that and potholes that I'm not familiar with. I would like a list of the roads again, and we should go over it and let me like drive the roads and.
That's why I keep saying, get in the pickup with
Yeah.
a bunch of people and go for a ride and say.
take her.
But I'm trying to invite everybody, so that way when we talk about this, everybody sees.
Well, listen, it's COVID.
Yeah.
Who's gonna sit in the back? Well,
Get a
me.
school bus.
The school bus.
No, I would like to do that. I mean,
Yeah, you know, it really does help to understand what he's talking about sometimes, you know?
yeah, I mean, I understand these people are very upset, and there's other people with other roads, and how do you, and you're right, who determines which road and what you fix, and
Well,
it's like,
it's a tough call.
I'd like to fix them all, but this payment of this money has to be talked about we can't just do this and bring the mill rate up.
Well, so, I mean,
No.
like I alluded to or explained earlier, the way that the project was supposed to have rolled out
Right.
was that, I gotta think about that. It was not gonna affect the mill rate because we were retiring debt and we were gonna be able to reduce our paving line that we normally put in every single year for the difference, okay? And so, while we didn't budget in the payment necessarily, like it's not in this budget here, right? We've not added that debt service into this budget because we didn't incur that debt. But it would have been flat in respect to mill rate. Moving forward, you know, I think that the board, you know, will have to consider the paving project again, putting it back for the voters, and whether or not you want to do it at this next town meeting, with everything that's been going on. I think that would be due diligence. That would be greatly appreciated. It's just my thought. If you want to do that, and the way that we had done the authorization in last year's town meeting was for authorization in this year's project. And so we got the authorization here. We're only initiating the project here. The debt service, the old debt service is going to fall off here. And over here is where we're going to incur that new debt payment. And so we had it all staged out to be a zero impact on the mill rate. Over that period of time. So now we're in a different scenario where, and that's how we had explained it at the town meeting. And so now the circumstances have changed. I think it warrants putting it back before that. Kevin's got his projects listed. It's in the town meeting warrant from last year, the roads. They're all there. It's actually in the town report. You can find them right there, but certainly as we consider, because they're going to have to get done. There's no ifs, ands, or it's when. But we'll have to take a look at the work that's been done thus far, and the work that's going to continue to go on. Look at the roads that were approved, that were on the schedule. This board, per Kevin's input, is going to have the opportunity to make changes where they want, to put something on the town meeting warrant for the people to consider when we're done.
Article 6.
And Mark will be on our next agenda for sure.
We
What's
ready
that?
For Canaan, Mark will be on the next.
So Mark is going to have to be on, not a regular, I'm thinking that our budget meetings are just going to be for budget.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. But I think our regular board meeting, our next one that we have, that's one that we're going to need to decide, the board's going to need to decide what they're going to do to put that article in front of the townspeople, because we have not only that request for somebody to purchase property or acquire property from the town, but we have the pit in Frenchville, that somebody is interested in that we have, that we no longer have a need for, that the board already agreed to say we're going to put that out there for the people to decide if we want to sell. And then we have the whole request for, by somebody to purchase the roads there, not the roads, but the town properties over by Central, next to the Dion's there. So those are three matters that are going to have to go before this board, so we can decide what, if anything, goes on the town warrant for you to get the authorization to do what you need to do.
Mike Sear didn't give you any time frame.
No, we'll have to follow
It
up.
might be good to give him a call just to.
He's busy.
I know he's busy.
Yep.
They work day and night at this time of year because the season is so short. 6 feet of snow, they're doing paperwork in the office.
Yep.
So do we have to make a motion to take care of Article 6, or we have to make a motion to go into executive session?
Yes. And you would make that motion and cite both state laws that are in there as part of your motion.
So to consider a property tax poverty abatement application per 36 MRSA
Subsection 841.
subsection 841. Executive session recommended per 1 MRSA subsection 405 6-F.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
In favor? So it is what now?
10:03.
10, is that what you do? Close enough, 8:10. All right.
And the next board meeting date, you don't know. Oh.
Do I need to bring a Carson?
We'll put a plexiglass or something. There you go, roll.